It's the one of the many more that will be coming up. So can we please have our seats so that we can begin the session? And for the people that are coming, they'll definitely find us on our way. For the people that are on the tables, I'm sure you're enjoying what you're seeing, but you can also have more time after the afternoon session to go back and ask questions, leave your comments, and make more inquiries after the afternoon session. So I kindly request that we take up these lovely seats, especially at the front. You just never know who might be watching you guys. Backbenchers, hi. My favorite people, hi. Yes, but please, as you come in, I highly encourage that you take up the front seats. They are made for the special guests like you, the special people that you are. Please take up the front seats if you can. Thank you very much. So as we begin the afternoon session, we would like to start it with a word of prayer. And I would like to call Raymond. Yes, Raymond, could you come and take us through a word of prayer? I can see you literally screaming, no, yes, Raymond. Or you can have someone, you can nominate someone, but you just never know who might be watching. Someone might be inspired by your prayer to hire you today. So Raymond, don't miss out on this wonderful opportunity to be hired because of the anointing on your life. Raymond, thank you. I can see that you're coming. Thank you very much. So Raymond is going to take us through a word of prayer before we kickstart the afternoon session. The people that are walking in, please take up the front seats. They are for the VIPs like you, and you're our VIPs for today. The day is all about you. So Raymond.
Good afternoon. Let's humble ourselves for a word of God. Lord Father, we thank you for the meal that we've had. We thank you for the gift of life. Father, may you please come unto us as we're going to be taken through this afternoon session. May you enable us with a gift of knowledge so that we understand and take everything that they're really going to tell us. Father, guide us, protect us, and save us. In Jesus' name we've prayed. Amen.
Wow, thank you, Raymond, for that powerful prayer. Just a recap of the morning session. Most of the speakers highly emphasized networking and connecting. Your attitude builds your altitude. So for the next session, I highly encourage that you interact as much as possible. You just never know who might be watching. You never know the opportunities that are ahead of you. So please, mwetege. I think that should be my slogan for that day. Kwetega, right? So for the afternoon session, most of us have heard of how many of us have heard of the expired courses? None of you? Everyone? So I was told that usually when people keep silent, they are saying yes. Is it true? No? Okay, there you've spoken. That's nice at least. Okay, so I'm sure some of you might have some inquiries. So we have someone from the National Council for Higher Education with us, and also various people from the different media houses that you people are aspiring to join. So I highly recommend that please be interactive. Take down notes. Ask questions. You just never know. So without further ado, allow me welcome our moderator for the afternoon event. My apologies. I have so many names here. I'm not sure which one he is. But the lovely gentleman over here, he will introduce himself and the team that he has come with. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, once again, I add my voice to welcome you to the very first career symposium for the School of Journalism, Media and Communication. Ronnie for Ronald, Awanyi is my name. That's the one you failed to pronounce. And we'll get into business straight away. First things first, we'll invite the head of department, Mr. John Semakula, to do due diligence and invite the dean, who will kickstart this afternoon session.
Yes, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I just want to ask the students to settle down so that we can begin. We do not have to lose any extra minute because we've already lost a lot. As I begin, allow me to welcome our visitors from the industry. The three so far here. We have one other gentleman, the news editor of the Observer newspaper, Robert Mukasa Mister, who is actually on standby. Anytime we are connected, he should be able to join us. And I think because he's online, we should be able to allow him to talk to us first, and then so we let in the people physically present here to proceed. My name is John Semakula. I head the Department of the Undergraduate Studies Programs at the School of Journalism, Media and Communication. I'm honored to stand here again this afternoon, having been here before in the morning to introduce the first batch of our guests from ACME. I want to say that we're extremely delighted with whatever they did for us because they reached out to us and they have made us really proud with their presentations, and we've promised to continue engaging them on the number of issues we want addressed to our students and even lecturers here and there. Through the Dean, School of Journalism, School of Journalism, Media and Communication, who is actually here. I also want to welcome our students, especially those who have decided to keep time whenever they are invited to come here. To the visitors who are here, all of them are actually my colleagues so far. I have worked with them here and there on a number of occasions. For Carol now, it has become a culture that we work together, and she has connected us very well to the Daily Monitor newspaper, an opportunity which all of you must utilize and make sure that you benefit from it. To Carol, the guest this side, in the center is our friend Patty Houston. I have worked with her for quite some time. She is the Director of Communication, UCU Partners. Many of you have, some of you have actually written stories with UCU Partners. And Anne Mugunga, doctor, handed over the standard office to me when she was going back for further studies. Anne is now a fresh doctor. So good to see you, Anne, in your new capacity. And thank you so much for keeping our banner up as UCU. Yeah, so I wanted to just mention a few things before we start. At the School of Journalism, to the new teams which are here, but as I also proceed, I want to ask whether the gentleman, the editor from Observer is here. Another person, another guest called Saul Waigolo will be joining us anytime soon from the National Council for Higher Education. He confirmed that he will be with us, so we know that he will be around. So I wanted just to mention a few things about what we do here at the School of Journalism, Media and Communication. Our major emphasis is on the issue of promoting practicals. The intention is that by the time our students graduate from the school, they should be able to enter any media house and then work. And this has actually been proved before because we have a number of students, former students actually, working in the different media platforms in the country. That I can say freely because even when there are editors coming, like Carol from Daily Monitor, because she knows that we are well represented in Daily Monitor, like anywhere else. When you go to NBS, it's the same thing. When you go to New Vision, it's the same thing. When you go anywhere, and yet we've been in this field for a very short period of time. We are only about 22 years old as a school, so I think we are doing well, and the market is appreciating. But how have we been able to do this? I just want to make a few highlights here and there before I can invite the Dean to come and welcome our visitors at the same time. We have a number of platforms which we use to equip our students with these important skills. And one of them is the standard digital platform. Before COVID, it was, we used to print a hard copy newspaper, and we are one of the few, if there are other universities running a regular newspaper. So we are credited for that. We used to do that without anyone actually running after us because we are smart in that. COVID came and disrupted us, but still we ran a digital platform called the Standard Digital Online, run by our graduating students. We hire 4 at least every year and make sure that they go there, pick experience, and after that 1 year, we send them out to go and work. At this juncture, I also want to ask those who graduated last year, we are in the process of recruiting new interns at the Standard, so please go on and apply and win yourselves those particular slots. Outside the Standard, we also have the podcasts, which are managed directly by Mr. Senoga, one of our senior colleagues, Mr. Senoga and a team of students here, and they're also doing extremely well. That particular area has also been supported by my colleague here, Patty, with a lot of emphasis, because I think in the US for them, they are very far when it comes to using podcasts. So please don't stay behind when that platform is also there for you to utilize and advance your skills. Then we've got the TV, online TV. That one is extremely popular among our students, and every week they run a bulletin where they actually air issues going on within UCU and even outside. That is a dedicated team of students, and I think their chairperson is Kefa and his colleagues. I just want to ask Kefa briefly to stand up because the team has actually made us extremely proud. Kefa, can you stand up with that team? That is the leader of the online TV. That said, I think it's not my day, and I don't want to waste a lot of time. I want to allow Robert, after the dean has said something, Mr. Robert Mukasa to come online and then we talk. I'm going to ask the staff members here present to stand up so that we can see them and wave at our visitors. That is Professor Monica Chibita. Others, I think, will join later. I have seen Mr. Waigolo. I'm going to ask him to come on here and take a seat. He's the spokesperson for the National Council for Higher Education. He's not allowed to talk about our PhD, which we've been waiting for, but he can say something. At this juncture, allow me to welcome Professor Monica Chibita to come and say something and welcome the visitors at the same time. Thank you.
Good afternoon. It's good to be back. We had a very enjoyable morning, very enjoyable and very productive morning, and we hope the afternoon will go the same way. I'd like to welcome all our guests. I would like to say a special welcome to Patty Houston, who joins us from the US. She comes to Uganda periodically and has worked closely with our school. I would also like to welcome Dr. Anne Mugunga and Mr. Waigolo. These are the ones that I see seated already. If we have any other speakers in there, you are welcome. Some of you may not know, but Dr. Anne Mugunga was the standard supervisor for a period, and she raised the standards of the standard. And Mr. Waigolo is on our MA program and works closely with us. We are honored to host such eminent people. We also have some alumni in the audience. I think Prim Tumrami has left. She had another meeting to attend. I don't know if there are other alumni, but she represented the alumni, and we are grateful for that. A special thank you to the African Center for Media Excellence, which conducted a really, really lively session this morning, opened our eyes to a lot of opportunities and possibilities. And I took some pictures because I couldn't believe the energy in the room. So we are very grateful, and we hope for further partnership with the African Center for Media Excellence. For a long time, our school, the School of Journalism, Media and Communication, by the way, the name is School of Journalism, Media and Communication. School of Journalism, Media and Communication. So that school has recognized the need to close the gap between the lecture room and the newsroom. And we do that in a variety of ways, including partnerships like you've witnessed today. We enjoy tremendous goodwill with the industry, and we thank God for that. We've had engagements of this nature before, but this year we decided that we would launch the annual career symposium, which means we are committing to having this every year and to making it bigger and more sophisticated each year if we can. We see this as an important way to bring seasoned practitioners and other advisors on board to help us improve our programs. It's an invaluable opportunity for our students to learn and to build bridges. The School of Journalism, Media and Communication places a very high premium on practical training, as you've heard from the head of department. We do have student work exhibited on the sidelines, and I would like to encourage everyone before you leave to please go by, look at what we do, and also leave a comment. Recently, we have also competed quite favorably in the film space. And I fear to make a mistake. I don't know if Mr. Senoga is here. Is Mr. Senoga here? Maybe not. Maybe Kefa can speak, and I don't mean this in a biological way, but Kefa, if you would come forward and just tell us briefly, please come, and tell us briefly what it is we have accomplished in the most recent times. I think it will be helpful, because I fear I'll get the name of the film or the award wrong. This is in your official capacity.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Recording stop.
I'm called Kefa Senoga. I serve under the Media Link Association. That is the official students association for journalism and communication students here at UCU. So our film, we always do a film as part of our class project. And our film called Cookies and Sweets was recently nominated as in the category of the best students film. We were not able to get the award, but we were nominated, and we're going to premiere the film today at 5. We invite all of you to come and join. It's part of the career program. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I believe another film was also nominated for another set of awards, but I think you will hear that at the premiere. So we've also been very active in that space. So any support from the industry in terms of career guidance, curriculum development, capacity building, and so on, even just constructive criticism is welcome. That is why we keep inviting people from the industry. Just to let you know that we offer a Bachelor of Arts in Journalism and Communication, and we have a specialization in journalism and a specialization in communication. In case the morning sounded very journalism to you, please remember the media aspect was quite well covered, as we talked about the social media and a few other things, but also aspects of the communication aspect. But this afternoon, we have Mr. Waigolo, who will speak comprehensively on the area of communication. We also offer an MA in strategic communication, and we recently had another MA accredited by the National Council for Higher Education, and that is the Master of Arts in Journalism and Strategic Communication. This one is a master's program that gives people the opportunity to transition within the field, because a lot of people would come in to do journalism, and then halfway they would say, but I like that course, can't I do it? So we kind of created a compact course that gives people an opportunity to have a mixture of both journalism and communication. We also recently had an inspection from the National Council of Higher Education regarding our preparedness to offer a proposed PhD in journalism, media, and communication. From our side, the feedback was quite encouraging, and we are hopeful that by the end of the year, we can start to offer that PhD, but that depends on getting a letter of accreditation from the National Council for Higher Education. As soon as that letter hits our desk, the advert will be out and we will be ready to roll. I would like to thank Mr. Kiva and ask him to stand up if he's here. Mr. Kiva is the engine behind today's organization. He's the one who put this symposium together. He chaired the committee, and he's done a tremendous job. We'd like to thank you very much. Mr. Semakula was also very, very supportive as head of department, and we thank you very much. And I also would like to thank our staff that were on the committee, as well as students who have volunteered in different respects. And with that, I would like to wish you a good afternoon and hand you over to the MC.
Thank you so much. And on to our first speaker. And just a brief about our first speaker. Earlier on, a gentleman who is also from my cohort, Edwin, was speaking to you earlier, and he mentioned something about branding yourself. And he said, what does it bring when you Google yourself, or when someone Googles you? For some of you, when you're Googled, it brings a video of you on TikTok twerking. And is it a good thing? Will I hold the pages like this to read out stuff about you? Well, something about Caro. Caro Aliek Beyanga is an editor who works with print titles, digital platforms, and publishing houses. Her experience is in editing spans over 20 years. She has worked in different roles, including as features editor and managing editor for the Daily Monitor newspaper, and as managing editor for digital content at National Media Group, Uganda. Caro has also done some editing work with publishing houses, as well as consults on personal writing projects. She is currently the head of mentorships, partnerships, and monetization at National Media Group, Uganda. She is passionate about seeing people grow in their careers and is involved in mentoring programs with organizations like this one. Caro has a Bachelor in Social Sciences from Makerere University, as well as an MA in Journalism Studies from Cardiff University. She's also a member of the Uganda Editors Guild. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together as we welcome Caro. Okay, Caro, I would just ask you to warm that seat a bit, because there's a change in program. We'll have Robert, who is online right now on Zoom. He couldn't make it here physically, but we'll have him go on first. Okay, so as we set up Robert, the technical team will probably inform us. Maybe just a word is good? Okay.
Yes, hello, you can hear me?
Yes, sure, Robert. Go ahead.
Okay, you can hear me?
Yes.
All right. Thank you for inviting me. I'm Kasa Robert. Right now I'm editing the Observer newspaper, and I'm happy to be here to share what I have with you. I've heard you talk about, I think someone has already talked about branding, but I think I also want to try and expound on it a little bit. I want to ask the students, I don't know if they have worked on their own personal branding, because I think it's a very, very important kind of aspect if you are trying to position yourself for the job market. And I also believe that it's a little bit different from your reputation, because your reputation is who you are, and you know what people see in you. Well, and the best judge of your reputation are the people around you. But I think personal branding is more than that. It is how you position yourself, how you want the world to see you. And sometimes you need to do this in a little bit of an honest manner. You don't want to lie about what you are projecting, because if it's disruptive, then I think it won't work for you. But yes, it's a very important thing. And so many people have defined it in very many different ways. But someone like Harrison Monath, I think, defined it is that distinctive value that you bring to your career, you know. And another one was also telling us that it is the promise that you are trying to bring to your career. You can be a journalist, but what kind of journalist are you? What problems are you solving? It's very important to position yourself as a problem solver. You have these skills, you know, and you are the problem solver. Sometimes it may not even be your profession, but there's so many skills that you may have. So I think I'm just inviting you to do some kind of soul searching and try to discover yourself. What is that skill that actually can be sellable on the market, that can make you unique, that makes you stand out in the crowd? Because you see, today there is a lot of competition, you know, in the job market. And sometimes if you go to be hired, you can go for an interview and people are looking for problem solvers, not people who articulate problems and tell them.
Recording stopped.
Not people who articulate problems and explain why certain things can't be fixed.
Recording in progress.
So I think you need to look at some of these things very, very kind of seriously. You know, you can write down all your skills you think you have and find out what is that very unique skill that differentiates you from the others. And ask yourself, well, what is your target audience? You know, so you need to look at some of these things before. Okay, right now you're still a student, but I'm sure some of you may be sort of like entrepreneurs somewhere. But even when you're an entrepreneur, you must be able to solve a problem, and you must be unique at solving that problem. It's very, very important. And I found what former US president said quite recently, and it quite resonated with me. In the workplace, like where I am, we are looking at people who can get stuff done. So are you the kind of person who can make things work? Are you the can-do person? You know, because there are so many people who go to some of these places, and before, you know, you ask for the job and you get it, and after a few months you start trying to coast through. You know, you just want to sit up and whatever. But if you are the person who gets things done, and as Obama said, if you are the person who is nailing it and killing it every day, I can tell you, people notice, and they will know that this is the person. This is a leader in the pack, that where that person is. And I don't think it can take you long before they lift you up. But if you are the complainer, you know, you are the person who is saying why a certain thing can't be fixed, I think it cannot work. I can give you an example of my newsroom and what we need to look at. Sometimes we have all these writers and we give them all assignments. There are people who are going to back out just the minute you are trying to mention the assignment. As you're trying to tell them what to do, they are also thinking why this assignment cannot be done. They are telling you how it's very impossible to reach certain people. And eventually when they walk away and they say, okay, let them go and try. And that's what they are going to use it. You know, like, let me go and try. You know that that job is not going to be done. And at the end of the day, that job is not done. So yes, we also take notice of that kind of person, and then you know that, well, if I have something I want to be done, then I can't give it to that person. And then also you get these people who are doers of things, and they are always like thinking like managers. They're thinking like, who is a manager? They are always coming to you to ask, you know, like if you are looking for the big story of the day, They are asking you if you have that big story. And if you don't have it, they have got ideas of actually what can be pursued, to try and get that big story of the day. And those are the kind of employees that go far, All the time they are looking for the pain points in an organization. They are looking for where the problem is, and they are trying to solve that problem. So I think as you prepare yourself for the job market, just understand that it doesn't matter how clever, how intelligent, or whatever you are, but if you can't use that intelligence to actually solve problems in a workplace, or even solve problems in the workplace, I think that is a very, very big problem for you. I think you need to work on it early. And the earlier you discover yourself and the earlier you discover your talent, the best you're going to sell yourself, because you go to a certain place and you know exactly what you want to offer. And I think almost what is the biggest drawback to this kind of thing is that, well, we say I can't be the problem solver everywhere, but I think what we need to do to also think about is don't fear to fail, because the fear to fail keeps us constrained. You don't want to step up and say, well, I can't do this, I can't take care of this, because you fear that maybe you can fail. But I think, as they say, failure is the biggest teacher of all things. You fail, learn, and get on it again. Fail, learn, and get on it again. And then one other aspect also that you need to understand, and I think it affects us more, we the leaders, try to surround yourself with competence. Get competent people around you. That means that you're going to solve so many problems, because there are people whom you're going to consult, and there are people who are going to keep giving you honest opinions. But I can also tell you that there are people who are afraid of having competence around them, and in many cases, they end up having very loyal but not competent people around them. So I think for the job market, I think you need that very kind of big aspect of trying to work on the person, yourself, who believes that I can solve problems. If you are a journalist, also think about what distinguishes you as a journalist. I normally, and of course, I think as I said, this skill you have zeroed on, that you think is your best skill and is your unique skill, then you need to sell it as you run. And you must be also a thought leader in that very field. I've read so many people, like someone called Paul, is it Paulina? Someone, I think he's an Italian journalist, but he uniquely reports about sports. He does business behind the sports. So he writes about all these sports kind of franchises and all that. And you find that very, very nice investigative pieces, how a franchise was built from scratch to something very big. So that is a very, very kind of like unique area. The people who are doing business and they're writing about it, they're solving problems in business. And when they come out, they are really very good. But when you walk into a place and they ask you, what can you do? If you're still the person who says, I can do anything, then I can tell you, you have not yet discovered yourself. Take some time and discover yourself. You cannot be the person who is doing everything. No, get something that you can do. So I think that's where sometimes we fall short of selling ourselves to whoever wants to have us. When you have that personal brand, it can help you control the narrative about yourself and introduce yourself in the best light possible. And I think people can understand you better when you're very, very focused. Yes. Thank you very much.
Okay, technical team is sleeping on the job, but regardless, we move. Very, very short, but with so much insight, right? But of course, we'll ask Robert some questions because he's online. We'll allow him to engage us shortly before we can continue with the rest of the panel. And something I had in mind was when he kept saying, you cannot do everything. You need to choose something that you can do. And then something came to mind that, COVID taught us a very rude lesson. When COVID came, newsrooms were forced to narrow down on staff. A lot of journalists lost their jobs, right? You may know some of them. And then somehow it forced newsrooms to merge roles. And I'm sure Robert is aware of this. Now, how therefore can a young budding journalist seated here thrive in an already merged newsroom of the modern day? I don't know if Robert can get this question. In the meantime, prepare your questions. Is he still online, technical team? Okay. Robert, please confirm if you're online and if you got the question. Robert?
Recording in progress.
Yes.
Yes, I got the question.
Okay.
I go ahead and ask. Yes, a young journalist today, if you want to thrive in a newsroom right now, I think we are being asked to market now, and newsrooms now. I think the best tool you can ever use now is to thrive in a newsroom. You have to use actually and implementize it intelligence tools. Right? Yes, artificial intelligence tools. Right now, I think there are so many tools that can reduce the editor's work by almost like 20%. I have tried some of them, and it is a joy to use them. And for a budding journalist, you can do so many things with these tools. Right now, I think a journalist can be a content creator, a very good content creator. You can be a very good graphic designer. You can be so many things. You can do videos. And these are the things that we need in the digital first newsrooms. So, and very unfortunately, the old journalists are taking very long to adapt to these tools. We are a little bit hesitant, So the adoption of these tools in newsrooms is quite very slow. I'm sorry, I'm getting a lot of feedback. I don't know if that is a technical problem, but yeah. So to answer your question, the long and short is, I think we need to go digital. We need to embrace all these AI tools. There are so many of them. Of course, there are drawbacks. We are scared that they may take our jobs, but I also believe that they cannot replace the human touch. If you're a journalist who is interested in doing the mundane tasks, you are just writing press releases and all, I can tell you that maybe your job is threatened. But if you are a thinker, you are a person who does investigative stuff, you analyze data and all that, there is still a lot for such a journalist to thrive in this environment. Thank you.
Thank you. Another question. as someone thinks of a question. Talking about AIs, Robert, we know what AIs can do. They're crazy technology.
Recording stopped.
And we know that
Recording in progress.
An AI can actually write for you a new story. Techno Room, I think the feedback is coming from two gadgets that are on at the same time. So if one could just go off, the sound, just mute it. So yes, like I was saying, AIs can basically write you a new story and give you voices, you know. I can sit on my desk, ask it to write me a story of something, a subject in Karamoja, and it will give me a proper story, depending on the word count I want, with voices in it, with names in it, and say, well-written story. How do we ensure that our young journalists here are not trying to
Recording
to
stopped.
write stories without going to the field? What measures is the newsroom taking to mitigate some of these challenges?
Okay, I think that's a good question. As I said, many newsrooms are just beginning to adopt. We are just beginning to transition. And right now, AI is one of the topics I'm trying to look at really to see how we can harness it for the good. Definitely, if someone is going to use AI to simply write a story where he has not been or she has not been, I think we have had those cases before where people have simply lifted articles, plagiarized them, and given them to us. And not so far off, I think we have been able to sort of like come and identify them. But the good thing about AI is that just like many people are developing these tools, there are also so many people who are developing tools that detect the use of these tools. So as we adopt them, we should also go ahead and actually adopt the detectors of the use of AI so that it can help us one or the other. But also from a very kind of like experience point of view, if I've sent you to Karamoja, or like maybe, I think last week I was in Obongi, I was trying to do a story there. Sincerely, if I used AI to write for me the story in Obongi, and about a primary school called Bongi, I think it's Bongilo, and there was a boy there called Alfat. I'm at pains to figure out really how AI can completely write for me a story that is believable when I've not been there, because I have had to talk to the boy, I have had to talk to his friends, I've had to talk to
Recording
the
in
master.
progress.
I have had to talk to his grandparents and uncles. So I think the part of information gathering, really, I don't think you can fake it with AI. But, well, it's a learning process. And I think the newsrooms are trying to tool themselves, are trying to equip themselves to see that if we adopt the AI, then we should be able to detect its use that is not good. It's very, very imperative that we invest also in that kind of technology. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Anyone from the audience? Okay, I guess that's it for Robert. Thank you so much for gracing this afternoon's event. For those of you, just to make sure Robert isn't a ghost, Robert P. Mukasa is a mass communication and political science graduate from Makerere University, class of 96.
He's also a candidate for the executive master in
Recording stopped.
and innovation and the Akani Graduate School of Media and Communication. Currently, Robert is editor of the Observer newspaper, a local English weekly newspaper. He also started out in journalism as a political writer, reporting on Uganda's parliament in 1996, before he was elevated to the position of City News editor by the Monitor, an English daily newspaper. Most of you know it, affiliated to, was under the Nation Media Group, Karo here. He went on to become the newspaper's news editor, a position he held for several years, and Gordon Fisher Journalism Fellowship at the University of Toronto in 2008.
Robert has also attended a Reuters Foundation course in writing international news in 2001, and is also an alumnus of the INWET International Institute for Journalism, Berlin, Germany, where he attended a course in electronic. I didn't notice I was off. I'll just say that again. Robert also attended a Reuters Foundation course in writing international news in 2001, and also is an alumnus of the INWET International Institute of Journalism for Journalism, Berlin, Germany, where he attended a course in, electronic reporting. Ladies and gentlemen, over to our next speaker, who we had already introduced, but round of applause for Robert. And I encourage us to keep those questions coming, because if you don't ask questions, it means two things. Either you have heard nothing and understood nothing, or you're just simply too smart like an AI. Carol, you're welcome. Please, let's welcome Carol.
Good afternoon. All right. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Carol Aliek Beyanga. As he introduced, I am an editor. I'm an editor at heart. I edit very many things. I always tease people. I edit even their WhatsApps when they send me. I edit posters on the road. I'm like, that's a wrong tense and everything. So I love to edit. It's just, I edit all the time. It's something I enjoy. And I'm glad to be here. I think you are very lucky. I'd like to thank the team that has organized this. We didn't have things like this when we were still in school. So I think you're very lucky that you have this, and I think you should make the most of it. And I am privileged to be standing before you. So I want to just share a few things with you, and I'll begin with just my experience. I knew I wanted to be in the media when I was 13 years old. And this is how we were at home, and we were setting up the TV. My mom was there, and we were trying to get a signal. You know, that time you had the aerial, you had to really try. I don't know if you guys know, try and fix it, you know, and that sort of thing. And then I think we were trying to get WBS at that time. So eventually we got it, and we're like, yeah, we got it. Now at that time, TV used to start at 6 p.m. This was UBC. So wait until 6 p.m. Oh, 6 p.m. it's on, then there's cartoons for like maybe 20, 30 minutes. Then there is something else, and there's a news in Luganda, in Kiswahili, some program, then the news at 9 p.m., maybe a movie, midnight, poof, it goes off. So that was our TV for us. So, you know, it was just 6 hours, and we could only watch 3 or 4, so, you know. So when WBS came on, it was on 24/7. And how we did this was because it had CNN, cable news network. And for some reason, I was fascinated by news. I would sit and watch. I would sit with my siblings. Of course, we were excited. This is different. The news is told differently. You know, interesting adverts of places we have never been to or seen or heard before, some of them. So, but after like 30 minutes or an hour, my siblings would walk away. I would just sit and watch. And you know, the news repeats it. At some point, they're repeating the same, you know. But I would still sit and watch. So at that point, I really enjoyed watching. I really enjoyed hearing from other places what's happening, what's going on. But I think the time I decided I wanted to be in the media was when I watched the time when there was war in Iraq, or Iraq, depending on how you want to call it. And so CNN was, of course, one of the people, you know, one of the media teams that were filming, and they were there. And the person who was doing the news was Christiane Amanpour. It was a woman. I was blown away. Because before it was usually men, it was always men with the cameras, with, you know, telling the news, the anchors. But here was Christiane. And you would see bombs going off in the background. But she, you know, they'll do that. And then she'll continue, you know, relaying the news. So I thought, wow. I want to be part of women like that who tell the news. And so I decided I wanted to be part of the news. So along the way, I changed my mind. I decided I didn't want to be on TV. I thought I loved to write a lot. I loved also to edit, so I decided I wanted to work with print. So when I was determined to do journalism, I finished, after A-level, I didn't get the marks. I missed by 0.5 to get journalism at Makerere University. But my dad knew that I really wanted to do it. My parents knew, so they were planning to, pay for me, and they told me to get the forms and sign off, and they would pay for me. But when I went to school back to get my S6, the A-level slip, I met my headmaster. It was a very fortunate meeting. I met him, and he asked me what I was going to do. I told him I got this. I was given this course by the government, but I am now I really want to do journalism, so my parents have kindly agreed to pay for me. He said, "You're mad." He told me, how can you waste a government scholarship like that? You have government sponsorship, you have a hall. I was given Africa Hall. You can't throw all that away. So many people would want that, and you want to throw that away? He told me, no, do that degree, which was a degree in social sciences, and then you can always master in journalism. So I listened to him. I went and told my parents. We agreed I would do that, and that's what I did, and I did journalism later. But I always wanted to do journalism, so finally I found my way at Daily Monitor. At Daily Monitor, the rule is that you really must first report. You really must, sit on the desk, go to the field. I didn't want. I wanted to sit on the desk and edit. Really, my heart was for editing. But I had to go through that process, and when I proved myself, as soon as the 3 months were over, I went to the editor and said, "Can I now do editing? I really want to edit." And I think they were very surprised, but they gave me the opportunity, and I've been there for 20 years now at the desk, writing and editing, mostly editing. So it has been a very good experience. It has been rewarding. It has been interesting. I have learned many things. I'm grateful for the opportunities at the workplace I have, because what I know is that if you're a hard worker and you do your best, you grow. And I'm grateful for those opportunities that I was given. And there are things I've done. There are things I have headed. I never ever thought I would be the managing editor for that paper ever in my life. So when I took up that job, I sort of thought, what am I doing? But there are many wonderful things that I learned and I did, and I'm grateful for that. But today, what I want to share with you is two things. I'll begin first with the mistakes I made. And I want you to learn from the mistakes I made the last time, these years I've been at the workplace. So one of the mistakes I've made is that it took me long to learn how to say no. Every time something was offered to me, I said yes, even if I didn't want it, even if I knew I couldn't do it, even if I knew I would really struggle, I just said yes, because I was so scared. I was like, I have to say yes. The supervisors asked if I don't show enthusiasm, I will look bad. But what that meant was that I ended up taking on too much sometimes, and I was not doing a good job. So I would take on so many roles. Someone comes and says, "Carol, please edit." I'm editing. I have my own work. I'm a features editor. I have around 7 products to manage, 7 magazines throughout the week. And then, another editor is coming and saying, "Carol, do this for us." Someone else is coming, "Carol, look at my story. Carol, help this person." And I would say, yes, okay, yes. And so I was overwhelmed sometimes, which meant that sometimes I did not do a good job. So I've had to learn how to say, no, I can't do it. Not now, or not today, or if you want me to do it, I can do it next month or next week, but right now I am tied up. And I have learned that is very helpful, because then people respect my time, and they know they will not, dump anything on me, and they will, and when I do the job, then I'll do a good job. So I've had to learn how to say no to things that I can't do because I am bogged down with so much, or I do not have an idea of. I should be able to say, I am not sure how to do this, so I need to learn. So maybe give me some time, give me a week to do it, or give me a few hours to pick up and that sort of thing. This doesn't mean that you should say no to everything you don't like or don't want to do. No. It just means you have to balance and ask yourself, am I ready to do this? Do I have the skills to do this? Do I have the interest? Am I going to learn from this? It may not be a nice thing, or it may not be easy for me, but it may be a learning opportunity. So you have to be able to make the balance and determine what you can say no to and say yes to. So don't throw away opportunities because you don't feel like, or you don't want, or you're not sure. Think through them, ask for help, but learn when to say. If it's time to say no, then it's time to say no. Don't allow everyone, like in my case, to sort of, dump everything on you. The second mistake I said I made is that I did not look for a mentor, deliberately look for a mentor or a coach or a role model. There were people in the newsroom who were really good, and I looked up to them. But the thing I did not do was create a relationship with them. So I was fortunate for some of them to come and tell me, Carol, you could do this better. Carol, how about you improve yourself here? And sometimes they did. But I did not walk up and say, Daniel, I would like to know how to do this. Can you help me? Loy was my editor. Can you do this for me? Or how do you think I'm doing in this area? I did not do that. And I think when I see people who I mentor nowadays, I think, I say how lucky. Because I missed that. I feel like I did not get that. And I feel like if I had done that, I might have been much further. I might have learned a lot more. So it's a mistake I made, not looking out deliberate for people to talk to, people to ask questions, people to make myself accountable to and say, I'm planning to do this. Please check on me. Please see my progress. Please see how I'm doing. These are my products. We have launched a new series of products. We're excited about them. But give me feedback. Do you think our products are nice? Do you think they look well? I have brought 2 reporters into my newsroom. They are new. Let me know what you think, how you think they are doing. I never went deliberately to ask for that, that sort of feedback, that help. I just sat and, whatever came. And for me, the lesson is, wherever you can, whatever aspect of your life, especially the work aspect, ask, look for a mentor. Look for someone you can be accountable to. It could be your supervisor, it could be someone else, but someone you trust, someone you can be accountable to, and someone who is looking out for you, not just anyone. You have to be careful who you pick. So now that I've learned that, I am more deliberate in looking to see who can be my mentor, who can help me in this area. And it doesn't matter at what stage of life you're at, or what you're doing, or even if you're at the top, everyone could do with a mentor. The other mistake I believe I made was that I did not believe in myself enough. I was very, I always second-guessed myself. If something, when the newspaper, when I was managing editor and the newspaper, or even a features editor, and any product came out, I would read, I would go through it, I would be so worried, did we make a mistake? Am I doing fine? And then if anyone, just one person said, this was not good, I would say, oh my God, we've not done well, this is not a good piece. Which was very, silly, because there were lots of other people who were commending what I was doing. They were happy with what I was doing. They were saying, this is good work. I mean, I got promoted a number of times. I was given more projects to do. I was given roles within the newsroom. I remember that at some point, 3 different editors, they kept saying, Carol, at some point you'll be managing editor, so I want you to learn how to do this. But I kept saying, I can never be that, no, I don't have this, I don't have that, I can't get to that level. So I didn't believe in myself enough. And that affects you, because then you don't take opportunities you need to take, you don't give something your best, you don't look for ways to improve yourself, because I am capable of doing that, I am capable of reaching here, so let me prepare myself for that space or that situation. So I have learned that it's important to believe in yourself, not to the point of having such a huge ego that everyone is stressed around you, no. But basically being able to understand that you have something to offer. You have a gift, you have a skill, you have a talent, so use it. So that's one mistake I made, and I've learned that I need to believe in myself, I need to be proud of the work I've done, I need to know that given a chance, I can do many things. And I'd like to share that with you, because I have, I'll give an example in the newsroom. There are 2 ladies who came from a university. I will not name the university. Could be here. No, I'm joking. So they came to the newsroom and they for internship. Now, one was so much better. Her grammar was good, her punctuation was good, she was very hardworking, she was, at the desk. Both of them were hardworking, both of them were always present, but the other one was better because she knew how to tell a story. She already had it in her. You could tell she knew how to tell a story, she knows how to form it, she knows structure, she knows what to ask for. The other one was fair in that area, but also hardworking and determined. So these girls finish internship, go and finish their course, their degree, and then come back, and then after that they're coming back to look for for a job. So what literally almost stressed me was the one who was so much better is so held back. She's so almost scared. And I have been pushing her and saying, why haven't you come back to monitor? Why haven't you asked, you have this editor who knew you before, who worked with you. Why don't you start from there? So as we speak, the other one, who was, fair but very determined, already has a contract, working with monitor, writing stories and doing many things. This one, who is way better in terms of knowing how to write a story, is still at the doors waiting to be let in, I think because she doesn't believe in herself. I think she still thinks she needs to improve herself more. And I've told her, you don't need to do that. So it can really negatively affect you if you don't believe enough in yourself. So I believe that you should believe enough in yourself. You should go and knock on those doors, The worst that you can get is a no. But go and knock, go and ask, seek, opportunities, ask people, what you can do. Don't sort of go and knock once and think that's it, they didn't allow me, so, look elsewhere. So have faith in yourself and keep looking for those opportunities. The other thing I did not do well, I would say, is that I did not create proper boundaries over certain areas. So, so there are different areas you can create boundaries. You have to create boundaries in your life over different things. Boundaries around your time, boundaries around certain people, boundaries around content. So I'll speak about two. I'll just give a silly example. Okay, not silly, but so I like to watch the crime channel. Anyone likes to watch crime? Yes, it's very interesting. However, Mr. Bayanga has told me he doesn't like me watching the crime channel. So one time he even brought me, my husband, he even brought me a report that said people who love to watch crime have something wrong with them. It's odd, it's weird. Why would you want to watch crime? So he showed it to me, he said, you see, even, there could be a problem. And I was like, no, there's no problem with me. But what he told me was that when you watch the crime channel a lot, you change. He told me, on a normal day, you're happy, you're excited, you're talking. But after, say, 3 hours of watching the crime channel, you're jumping at everything. So, there's something outside, a stick falls. What was that? At night, we are sleeping, and then a dog passes by, you're waking up, honey, have you had, He's like, it really affects you, honestly. And I first thought, no, But he actually started to show me how it was affecting me. So I had to draw a boundary there. I love the channel, I really do. It's interesting. And I watch it not because I have a morbid fascination with crime, but because I keep thinking, these people who do things like this, what enters them? Why would someone do something like this? And I'm fascinated by how the police are able to, put clues together and eventually find the killer or the murderer or, the thief. But I learned that I need to create boundaries. Instead, if I watch it, I cannot watch it too often. So it's the same way. We need to create boundaries around us. And for me at the workplace, I think the place I did not create a boundary was time. I found myself working almost 16 hours a day at the newspaper. Now, this is not to say that you can decide, no, I'm only going to work 8 hours and everything. It is difficult. At the media house, we are 24/7. Even if you're in a newspaper, even if you're done with the paper at a certain time, you're still thinking of the next paper, with the TV, the same thing, the radio. So this is not to say that you can just walk, decide and say, I'll come in at 8 and leave at 5, or that kind of thing. Things are different. But I believe that you can determine how you want to work in a place. After you figured out what is the culture of this place, how can I work, what can make me do things in time. And I realized it was possible with an editor of mine. This editor, she's called Loy. Loy left a long time ago, but she left a really big impression on me. She's one lady who taught me so much, taught me almost half of what I know. I'm indebted to her. So Loy and I used to work late hours because we were the features editors. And I remember the time when Idi Amin passed on. I think we left work at 2 a.m. because it broke late, so we had to, and we were the features team, so we had to do a whole 4-page section of who was he, where did he die, what was his legacy, that sort of thing. I'll never forget that night. We were the last two with a guard outside, working, doing the paper and that sort of thing. So there are moments like that. I always keep saying that moments that I don't like. Okay, now I'm no longer at that side, so I'm okay. But the times I didn't like was the release of results of PLE or A-level or O-level, especially PLE, because it's a lot, it's a lot of data. And you have to come out with the data the next day. There's no question. You cannot just come out and say, results have been released. You have to do everything, which schools were the best, which schools were top, which students got 4s and 5s and everything, which teacher, there's so much work to do. And UNEB sells us this information, but they don't sell it when it's already broken down. They sell it raw. So we have to get our statisticians to first do all the drilling, then we have to start putting it on the pages. So we usually leave earliest 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. Because they release it. I remember they release it, you should see us waiting. We're like, when is Madam going to release this thing? Because they don't give it to us until the Minister of Education has said, I declare the results released. So we have to wait. If she says it at 2, then we get the thing at 2. If she says it at 4, we get it at 4. So there are moments like that. But I realized that it is very possible to manage your time better. And Loy taught me that, because we used to work late, would leave work at 8, 9. Then one time she decided she thought she was putting on too much weight, so she said, I want to lose weight. But she had to be at the gym by 5, between 5 and 6. So what she did was she said, I am going to leave work at 5. By the time I have left work, everyone should have done what they were supposed to do. Now, lucky for us, we are not the news team who has to stay a bit late. We were the features team, who have to be in like a day, sometimes a day or hours earlier. And Loy managed. She made it work. She said, she would come early in the morning, she would push us, she would insist, she would work hard, but at 5 sharp, you just hear her packing her bags, see you guys, and she would be out. And we still had a great product. Nothing changed. It's not like our product became bad or our stories were now not so good anymore. We were still doing well, but she sort of decided that I am going to leave at 5. Therefore, we all have to work in such a way that we are done by 4:30. And she made it work. And I realized it is possible to find a way to create time boundaries. And I ended up doing it a lot later, but I ended up doing it, and it was good for me, because that meant I came to work fresher. I came to work, better in a better state to do the job. So learn to create boundaries. Learn to create boundaries depending on what it is. It could be time, it could be content, like I was saying, the crime channel, or it could be people. It's very important to be around the people who have a positive influence on you. Are they guiding you? Are they showing you how to make things better? Are they giving you good feedback? Are they helping you? Are they saying, come, let's do the story together? Is it an editor who calls you back and says, I'm not running this story because of this reason, so let's look through your story and make it better? Are you hanging around those kinds of people? If you do, you will grow a lot faster. If you're hanging out around those people who say, this company, I don't know. I don't even know why I'm still here. They complain about everything, the food, the editors, the computers. They'll even complain about the news you're supposed to do. They complain about everything. It affects you. There is no way. It affects you, and you also begin to think like that. So you need to be careful and say, who am I surrounding myself with? Am I surrounding myself with people who are helping me grow, who are helping me, pushing me to do my best? Or am I surrounding myself with people who are constantly putting others down, constantly making all these snide comments? Choose very carefully who you work with. People who are making you grow, or who are giving you, good feedback. And also people, don't shy away or don't reject the people who give what we call tough love, and many people always sort of fear that. They say, editors, they are tough, they shout. Not all editors are like that. Some, but not all. But if you can tell that you are growing because of this this feedback, no, you didn't do this right, they are pushing you back, go and do the story again, I don't have this, I don't have that. You are growing, you are learning, you are improving yourself. So don't shy away from that person, don't leave because it makes you feel uncomfortable. Discomfort helps us grow, because we don't want to be in that place again, so we say, so what can I do to get better? So surround yourselves with people who will help you grow. And then finally, in this area, what the mistake I did was I did not continuously learn enough. I would learn things, so I don't want you guys to say after you finish here and you find yourself in a media house or communications, you're doing comms or media or social media for someone, you're like, I'm done with books, that's it. Learning is continuous. Whether you're learning, whether you're doing a master's program or another, program, or even if you're teaching yourself within the newsroom. If you go there and you say, I don't know this particular skill, so I need to learn it. So it's very helpful. What I notice is that many of us tend to want to learn the things we like. The things we don't like, we don't want to put, time and effort there. But it is those things that we should, because we lack knowledge, we lack information, we lack the skill. So where you notice that I am not good at photography, and yet it's important in this particular, maybe in my particular job right now, particular role, then keep teaching yourself. If you think that at some point I want to be an editor, like me who was really, as an editor at Monitor, you have to learn how to design pages. And, so most people will teach themselves and many people they're reporters, but they have learned how to design, using the current tools we have. So I feel like I should have taught myself more. So what I did, I leaned a lot more towards things I liked. So I liked features, so health, education, women, children. I really, I learned a lot, I read a lot, I, went for those kinds of workshops and things like that. When it came to politics, because I was not very interested in politics, I would sort of, send someone else or that sort of thing, which did not help me when I became managing editor because now I had to have a perspective of the whole, newspaper. So I remember that time thinking, I should have spent more time reading all this, the politics, understanding our politics and that sort of thing. So don't shy away from the things you don't know because you don't know them. So learn more about the things you know. So now that I've learned that, I find myself, I push myself to learn. And I realize it's not as hard as we think it is. The moment we decide, I want to learn this thing, and we find a space to learn it, you start to enjoy it, you start to actually pick up the skill. And when you begin to use it and it is appreciated, then the sky is the limit. So keep learning, whether, when you go to the newsroom, whether 3 years or 4 years in a newsroom, keep learning. Keep learning how to do stories, keep reading how do other people do their stories, how the different angles you can do for a particular story. How can I learn how to interview someone better? How can I learn how to write a proposal, for a client better if you're in the comms world, for example, and maybe you're doing communications for a particular organization. How can I learn how to write a press release that the media house will like? How do I learn how to, make friendships and relationships with editors because they're the ones who determine what runs in the paper? How can I learn how to, do video editing? I can take the videos, but can I edit? So keep asking yourself, what can I learn? Whether it is a skill or something else, learn. It will. The people I see in the newsroom, the people who teach themselves or who, keep asking, how do you do that? They learn. They keep coming and saying, I saw this, how do you do that? Why did you do that? They're the ones who grow faster. Within months, they're doing better stories, they're doing better interviews, they're on the cover page, their byline is on the cover page because they want to know and they're learning. So what I want to leave you with is just an encouragement as you plan to go out in the field, whatever stage you are. First of all, I want to tell you that all of you here have a talent and a skill. By the time you get here, by the time you're studying, you have a talent, you have a skill. So be proud about that skill, be proud about that talent. Some of you have different, hard skills. Some of you are good at writing already. Some of you take good videos, you take good photos, you do podcasting well, you have a good voice that people want to listen to, you have a flair for writing. There are many skills, and find out what skill you have. So each of you here has a skill. Find out what you have and grow it, and maximize it. But you also have a soft skill. Some of you are good communicators, you communicate well. Some of you are good people, good people. You make friends with people easily, you understand people, that sort of thing. Some of you, you have different skills around you in terms of your personality. Some of you are good thinkers or you reflect. Some of you don't speak much, but when you speak, we all listen because wisdom is there. So you all have a different skill. Find out what it is and maximize it. But you have a skill. Do not forget that. Do not let anybody tell you don't have. You have a skill. Find out what it is and then maximize on it. You have time. You're so like you have time on your hands. You may be feeling, oh, now we are finishing and everything. I don't have. You have time. Make use of that time. Recently someone was doing a research and she asked me, there's a complaint that it takes a long time for people to get promoted, and that sort of thing. And I told her, I said, in my view, it takes time to get to that place. So I told her, I said, look at all our senior, like all the people who are senior with me, I mentioned all the names, our managing editor, our chief sub-editor, myself, our upcountry editor, our new national editor, all of them, not less than 15 years in the newsroom. And it's because they've taken their time to grow their skill, to grow, to get experience and that sort of thing. So you guys have time on your hands. You have the time, use it well. Use it well to learn, use it well to make friends and that sort of thing. You have time on your hands compared to someone who is, like say much older and doesn't have enough time. You're still on campus, you still have years ahead of you. You have time, so use it well. You have opportunities. For us, when we left university, my dear, you went either to the print, like New Vision or Monitor, or you went to, there were a few radios, one or two of those radios, or you went to TV, UBC, even NTV came much later, maybe UBC, WBS. So the competition was really stiff. It still is, but it was so much stiff at that time. You guys, you have so many opportunities, There are fewer more newspapers, many more TVs, many more radios, and then there's online, there are websites, there are blogs. You have so many opportunities. So that is one thing you have that we do not have. So make the use of that. And I'll give just two quick examples. There's a lady who I mentored at some point. She was called Patricia. And Patricia, she did a course. I don't remember what course it was, when she finished A-level, did a course, finished, came back, then got married, had children. But in her head, she thought, I wanted to do journalism. And so she came back, she went back to university, and at 35. And she said, I'm going to go and do the full, 3 or 4, I don't know how many years it was, 3 or 4. And she did. And Patricia, and I'm very proud of her because there are so many things she does. She's a very good writer. So I keep telling her, whenever you have a story, just give it to us. And every time I give her stories, the editors, they love it because she writes very well. But she has her own blog, and she was very passionate about women in the rural area. So she's created a blog, a website about women in the rural area. She has, gone to different places and gotten women in different media houses to write stories once in a while. And she's gotten funding, so she gets grants to be able to do stories about, that's her niche, rural women. So she's done a lot in that area. She's worked with other websites that are not even in the country. She works with 2 websites. One is Nigerian, one is US, but she edits for them. So she's able to do the work edit for them. So she has almost 4 things she's doing. So you guys have so many opportunities. Please make the most of them. And then you have networks, or at least the ability to make networks. It's a bit easier now. We have many communication tools, many gadgets to use. So please make use of that. You have, I know, on your phones. I can see some of you on your phones. You have, there's WhatsApp, there's social media, there are many things you can do with your phones. Network, If you happen to be put in a group of, there's an association you have for the journalists here, right? Make use of that association. If you have events like this, I always say that when we have events like this and, editors come, say myself, different people, you cannot let them walk away. How? You've seen Carol, let's say if Robert was here or something, you can't. Make the most of that. Yeah, 2 minutes. Make the most of that. Make the most of that opportunity. Speak to them. They may not necessarily get you a job at their place, but they'll give you, they'll give you contacts. They'll give you advice. They'll perhaps help you look at your stuff and that content and everything. So make the most of it. When you see these people, take their numbers. When you're in different associations, see who's doing what, and be able to say, this person, I've seen they've done this. I'm going to, sort of ask them if they can help me with this, or help me with a contact, or help me improve my skill. So you have a lot ahead of you. You have all those things I've said. You have talent and skills, you have time, you have opportunities, and you have networks. Make the most of them. This is, don't beat yourself up, or don't worry that it won't work out. It will. But you need to plan what you want to look like. You need to plan what you feel, what does success look like. And if success is being in comms or being an anchor or whatever it is, then work towards that with all these things that are ahead of you. Thank you very much.
I'm sure that story would have lasted another 24 hours and wouldn't get tired of it, right? Yes. Surround yourself with significant people. Some of you, all your friends are just always drunk. No significance at all. Okay? Time to switch things up a little bit. Let's talk. The communications people are now saying this is just about journalism, right? Yes. The one good thing about being a PR is when things are going well. But when things take another turn, is when you know that there is heat in being a communications person. Recently, when there was a leak to the media about expired courses, I saw a PDF being circulated by media houses. And then I said, this one must have been from the communications house at National Council. Well, I'm not saying he's the one who released it, but it was quite a period for him, I'm sure, because the media was pointing fingers, universities were pointing fingers. He will either clarify, but I don't think he has to. So let's talk about Mr. Saul Waigulo, our next speaker. He's a current senior PR officer and corporate affairs, rather, for the National Council of Higher Education. He did his master's in that is strategic communication, or he's actually doing his master's in strategic communication here currently. He also did an MA at Cavendish University, did his bachelor's in mass communication from here. He's been a teacher at Light College Mukono. He's been a radio producer at Dunamis Radio Mukono, been a radio presenter as well, news reporter, a district information officer in Amutumba, communications officer. And then, of course, his area is basically corporate communication. I guess you get where most of his talk is going to come from. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Mr. Saul Waigulo.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon to you all. I want to thank the Dean and the members of the faculty for organizing this. And I want to be open, as Anne said, you are lucky during our time. We wanted to have such things, but we were unlucky. Nevertheless, we want to thank the Almighty God for everything. I'm Saul Waigulo, as they have introduced me. I'm one person who started being a journalist where I was, I think, 10 years in my village there. And during my school time, they used to call me Radio Whatever because I used to know all the reporters and everyone on radio by that time. And at A level, I only filled the 2 courses. That's mass communication and law, full stop. You know, you have, I think, like 6 chances, but I filled only 2. And they asked me why. I said, these are the only ones I want. I don't want any other course. But sometimes the way human beings work our ways, not the same way God does his things. I ended up becoming a teacher, and I enrolled as a secondary school teacher at the Institute of Teacher Education in Chambogo. I became a political education teacher and history. However, I remembered one gentleman whom I always remember much, as I had no chance of meeting him. That's a man called Joseph in the Bible. Joseph had a dream. However much things came along the way and tried to divert him from his dream. He even reached the extent of leaving his jacket with Potiphar's wife for the sake of his dream. My dream was to be a journalist. Even if I went and became a teacher, I said, no, I want journalism. So I went to Uganda Management Institute for a diploma in journalism. That's where I met the likes of Mr. Benibera, the late Obombo Koku, Mr. Pajo Julu, Mr. Beno Chan, among others. However, I didn't finish the course. I failed to raise money. When I applied for the term, because it was in term system, the course was closed. UMI stopped offering diploma in journalism and secretarial. By the time I went back, no, we no longer have lecturers. We closed that school of journalism. I went home. Then I was told about UCU. I applied for a diploma, but UCU gave me a bachelor's. I complained. I came and complained to the then academic registrar, the Reverend Canon Kagume. I said, for me, I wanted a diploma. Why have you given me a bachelor's? But I said, your points, you qualify for a bachelor's, and you have a diploma. I said, but I will not raise the money. So I joined with Mr. Semakula here, and the likes of Dr. Semuju, among others, and we finished in 2006. We graduated. I did a bachelor's. I specialized in public relations. However, if you look at today's environment, I know you have your areas of specialization. You are doing journalism, you are doing broadcasting, you are doing photojournalism, you are doing public relations. But the way sometimes the world tempts you, you may take longer to be what you did. I ended up joining radio, much as I did the public relations. I was with Radio Sanyi for some good years. I was with Dynamis Radio here, and sometimes I spent little time with Impact Radio. With Johnny there, when Johnny had just joined the Daily Monitor, later I joined the New Vision. We had an office here in the Mukono Court, Mukono Media Bureau. However, much as I ended up in radio, I said, I have a dream. I did the public relations. When a chance came, I failed to get a job within Kampala here. When a chance came, I went up country, and I joined Namutumba district as the first district information officer. I said, much as I've come to the village, I want to be near Bank of Uganda. Because when you are near Bank of Uganda, that's where they make money from, isn't it? When they are printing new notes, by the time it reaches you in your mother today, it has gone through a number of hands. So I said, let me go back to Kampala. I first stayed in Jinja for 3 years with Naro as a communications officer, and I was the first communications officer in fisheries. Then later in 2016, I joined National Council, and I was the first public relations officer for the National Council for Higher Education. What am I trying to say? That you can join an organization where you're the pioneer, and the people look at you with a lot of expectations, what they know and what they don't know. And they know you're a professional, and you must start the department. When you need to come up with the policies, you need to do a lot of things, you need to create awareness, people to know what you are supposed to do and what you are doing. And by the way, where you go, somebody has been doing that job. Well, it's not a profession, but has been handling it. So you are going where somebody has been handling. And they know the person may be human resource, is handling PR activities. Now you go with your bachelors, with all of these, so many courses and components, everything. Now you are starting the department. Where we are going as journalists from here, we are going to find an environment which has changed, where we talk of citizen journalism. Everybody now is a reporter. Everybody in the village is a reporter. Because he has a phone, can call a radio station and say, this person committed suicide in our village. So as you wait to pick your pen and notebook to run to Nama, to take a picture of the person who died, another radio has already aired that story. Because they are reporters there in the villages. So that's where we are going. We are going in the field where you find the social media journalism is at the highest peak. Before you tell us the story, we have already seen it on social media. We have already read about it. Another person has already, by the time we say breaking news, it's no longer breaking. For you, you want us to wait up to 9 p.m., then you come with the live at 9. We have already seen it on social media. So that's the environment here we are going. Timeliness. People now are getting stories very fast. Immediately something happens in Kampala, person in my village has already seen it or has heard. Gone are the days when we used to wait for Radio Uganda at 5 p.m. or 8 p.m. news hour, when Kanale Mugisha Delete could come with the stories in news hour and we wait. By the time news hour comes, we have already seen it. So timeliness. As you wait to go to Uyikwe, to come with the story, look for a computer, type the story, take it to Ann, it's already out in Campus B. You know those online papers? They have already published it. So you are coming to an area where we are talking about timeliness. Desk journalism. These days I always suffer with the reporters. Someone will call you. Are you the PR of National Council? Can you record for me your voice and you send it? These days we have desk journalists. And you are going to become a desk journalist. You spend most of your time on your phone. And when you hear something, then you call. Are you the PRO? You see you? Can you take a picture of students demonstrating and you send me? There are many there, desk journalists. Then we talk of corporate credibility. In these organizations we work for, corporate credibility. We're talking about credibility of an organization. When you talk about an organization, what do you pick? What do you hear? What do you have in mind? What image and reputation is the name of that organization carrying? If you talk of Uganda Christian University, the first thing that comes in somebody's mind is the Christianity in that university. Talk of Islamic University, the first thing to come out will be is it Islamicism? I don't know. Something to do with that. In that what? In that institution. We also have organizations where you say, send your children away because people have come to plant a pole. Because they know when they are planting a pole, they speak big words. And you send away your kids. I mean, corporate credibility. And this credibility is also individual. How do you present yourself? The first presenter talked about branding. How do you present yourself as a reporter? How do you present yourself as a newscaster? How do you present yourself as a PR of an organization or as a spokesperson? So credibility is not only for the organization, but we as human beings working in that organization, we carry the brand of that organization to wherever we go. That's why they say drivers of that organization are bad drivers, because that's what we take. Girls working in that media house dress indecently. That's what because that's what you carry to the field. Don't be like your friend is from this media house or this organization. So the other thing to note is noise from multiple channels. One of the barriers we face as PROs is the noise from multiple. These days we have so many channels. You find if you are to read, during those days we used to have box numbers and telephone only, and fax. Today you have fax, box number, YouTube, Twitter, ABCD. Now, every channel is sending or receiving messages. As a PRO, how do you condense? How do you handle all that? That the information coming through Twitter, the information coming through WhatsApp, maybe Facebook, and how do you balance them? And how do you respond to them? Because by the way, each channel has its own stakeholders and the publics that are following it. During those days, we only used to have Radio Uganda. So it was easy for someone to follow Radio Uganda, Ngabo, Weekly Topic, New Vision, and Daily Monitor, and the Bukede. Today we have so many. Someone will even tell you that, have you seen this story? It's already out. You look for New Vision, look for Daily Monitor, it's not there. But it's with maybe Campus B. Ego, is it Ego Online? There is a certain radio station which you have never heard of, which has aired that story. So, that's the field we are having now. We talk of two-way PRO. Public relations during those days was a one-way thing. That you wait for the public relations officer to issue a press statement, then all the media houses will read that one and take it as a gospel truth. These days it's a two-way. I receive feedback. You are saying this, you see it's like this, but last week they said like this. How do you handle feedback? Because feedback is also important in communication. It helps us to gauge. It helps us to know how people are perceiving us. It helps you to measure your clients. But how do you handle feedback vis-a-vis what you are sending out? Somebody talked about what we went through last month as a National Council and universities together. By the way, this thing was not for National Council only. It was for National Council and the universities. We talked about expired programs. And I know some of you must have gone to your lecturers and asked them. Yes, these programs have been there, institution is it's something which was already out for some good time. But because there were some internal wars in one or two universities, and people were fighting somebody in a certain university, they thought that maybe when they bring it out, it was going to hit that person. It ended up hitting the whole educational sector. And when it hit the whole educational sector, even someone studying from Nairobi University, someone in Kabale, someone in Kanungu was affected. We had to struggle with that crisis. What are we trying to say? That how do you handle this thing of communication? We also talked about influencers, the bloggers and influencers. These days they are very key. They are very key. We used to have Lumbuye. I don't know how many of you were following him. Rest internal peace, our friend Isma. We have TikTokers. We have Kaya Wisdom. You know them. We follow them. Even Lumbuye has said it. Let me wait for Lumbuye to say. What has wisdom? You wait. Full figure is about to say something. So we have those bloggers and influencers who are setting the agenda today. Their news is not censored. They can say anything. They have no editor like this one here. You sit and write whatever you feel is what you want to be, what you want your people to read about. So, what do we need to do as journalists in this era? As media communicators in this era? One, be accurate and reliable. When you go out and you are accurate in your writings, people will trust you. When you are reliable, people will rely on whatever you say, even if it will be a lie. We have some PROs when they say something, however truth, the thing will be, who said it? That must be a lie. Who said it? That must be a gospel truth, even if it's a lie. Be reliable. Even when you go to work, when your boss, the editor, is sending you, by the way, there are some reporters, you say, for you will cover court, for you can manage traffic. Not that you are inexperienced, you experienced in issues of traffic. But maybe the other areas, when they send you, will come after 2 days. We had a colleague of ours, Semakula knows him, he was a good reporter. Very good one. But give him a camera, send him into the field. The moment they give him 10,000, he'll come after 3 days. He'll come back after 3 days. When the story has been seen already in other media organizations or publications. So be reliable. Two, we talk about the media, now they have gone what we call media conglomerate, where we have so many numerous media houses within one company. She talked about Daily Monitor, which is under the Nation Media Group. You have to talk of KFM, you talk of so many radio stations. There are very many. Go to NBS. They have NBS, they have even Is It Online, they have now radio, they have so many things. If you want to go to Luganda, they also have a Luganda station. Go to Vision. They have a Vision, they wait for you at Urban if you are English speaking. If you are Luganda, they wait for you at Bukede with Agatali Konfufu, they go, Is It Radio West, including online. But some of us think, so that's where we need now to move. When you go to the media, you need to see where are we going. This is the angle. Take this line, take this line, take this line. Even you as news reporters, what else do you have? What else can you do other than going to court reporting news? 3 people have been acquitted, have been committed to high court, full stop. Even tomorrow you wait for court. When the court goes in session, you say you have no work to do. They send you to parliament, say, I don't think so, parliament, his son so can cover parliament. We need not to put ourselves in a category where we think we have specialized. Do research. There is no way you'll be a good reporter. There is no way you'll be a good PRO when you don't do research. Before you call me to ask me about National Council for Higher Education, or before you call the PRO of UCU, what is UCU offering? But you are a reporter, because you are carrying a story, you are investigating on a story about courses in Sharia, is it masters in Sharia? Then you are calling every university, including UCU. UCU, how much is a course in Sharia, a master's in Sharia? Does UCU offer masters in Sharia? Or you are calling IUIU to ask them about a master's in theology? Do research. Sometimes as PRO we get challenges with reporters. Even something on the website, he will call to ask, yes, it's good to call and I confirm. But what are your roles as National Council? Then I ask, what have you read on the website? Then we start from there. Before you are assigned, take a time of 2 or 3 minutes, read something about that organization where you are going. Uganda Wildlife Authority, what is it all about? Then you're going to ask them about water. You see, there is scarcity of water, but they are not in water, they are in animals. Do research. Another thing to note is that what else can you do? I mentioned it. When you go to organizations as PRO, you think you'll only be there to write press releases and wait for phone calls. We do a lot. I do events management. Every function at National Council, I'm part of it. I do protocol. Issues of visitors coming to National Council visiting the ED, I'm the chief usher. I only identify other people to work with me, but I'm the chief usher. If we host vice chancellors, I'm in charge of seeing that they have gotten water, or if we have prepared disorders, whether there is lunch for them, I must find out who is in charge of what. But a PRO, you put on your suit, your phone, you sit, full stop. Take pictures. I'm alone in the organization. I'm the cameraman of National Council for Higher Education, the official cameraman of National Council. But you think when you are doing a public relations, you leave issues of the camera to those who are doing photojournalism. You will go in an organization, they buy for you a camera, and they will not give you money to hire somebody to come and take pictures. And you must use those pictures in publications and making diaries and calendars. Because you must have a database of pictures. But because for you did the public relations, then you will say, we must hire somebody who did the photojournalism. But the organization has only one slot. And unless you are saying that you go away and they bring another person. So we talk about multitasking. What else can you do in that field of public relations? In that field of media, other than reporting, can you take a picture? Or you one who will not go to the field because you have not been assigned a photojournalist? Can you edit a story? Because at National Council, you also edit these stories before you send them to these people of Daily Monitor. Because I know what I want. I must write what I want them to write. Because for me, I'm doing public relations. For them, they're looking for a story. Sometimes it's propaganda. Because I want them to talk good about my organization. Everything which is negative, I edit it out before I send it to them. But for you, just send it the way it is. Then you say, this Daily Monitor is hitting me. They say, but this is what you sent us. And that part is also there. Don't worry about finish. Oh, then have a strength. What are your strengths? If you are going to, you are so many in your class. When they advertise, they want a PRO or a news reporter, you will be like a 40 or 50. What else, what strength do you have that you can use to beat others? For me, I write speeches because it's one of my roles. Because when you go to an organization, you're in charge of writing speeches. If you have a function and the chief guest is coming, whether you have invited the president, you must prepare a speech, you send and they edit. And they put in their political language. If you invite my ED, I must prepare something. I work with the PRO here. Prepare something. Do you have anything for him or for her? Then I edit. I say, by the way, when you go ED, this is what you should read. Because that speech must be in favor of my organization. I must be in charge, by the way, as National Council. We must speak, we must deliver what we want people who have attended the function at UCU to hear from us. So you be in charge of speeches. That's what we say, that at least have a strength. Know your organization. You must know your organization. Whether New Vision, whether Daily Monitor, whether UBC, whether CBS. We talk about editorial policy, the bureaucracy in the newsroom. What comes first? If it's CBS, the story about the Kabaka must come first. The story of Katikiro must come first. If it's about UBC, the president or the minister must come first. If it's UCU, the vice chancellor must come first. And at National Council, the ED and chairperson, Professor Katunga, must come first. Know your organization. And in knowing your organization, you must also know your stakeholders. If you are writing, whom are you writing for? Some of us write stories for ourselves. Yes, because you went to a big school, you have these big words in English, but you are writing for somebody from Buko or Kweni, whose English is still struggling with the English from down there in Kayunga. But you are bringing big words, because for you to understand them, you think everybody will understand them. Know your stakeholders. And knowing your stakeholders, we categorize them among those we call the users of your information. We have the providers, those who are interested in providing services, not the influencers, people who influence and those who govern your organization, who have influence and can have an effect. Positioning was talked about, think about your future. She talked about adding on more qualification, think about your future. When the dean was talking about PhD, I've already prepared my application. I'm waiting for the advert to apply for a PhD here. Because I'm thinking about my future. Having a degree, yes, it's possible for you to be the first person with a degree in mass communication in the whole of village or the whole of Sabu-County. I was the first person to earn a degree in my clan. But it's not enough, because now more children are around the university. If you have the ability, pursue further studies. If they say that the sky is the limit, why not go to the sky? Finally, believe in yourself that yes, I can, and build rapport, like networking. Some of you, when we meet, we chat, we leave it at that. How else do you want me to help you? Some of you go for internship. Some of you look for areas where to go for internship. I'm lucky I have mentored 2 people from UCU when I was in fisheries. And one of them is the communications officer, Institute of Public Institute of Certified Public Accountants, Uganda, who was a student of UCU. She came as an intern. I mentored her from Jinja. Whenever we meet in meetings, I feel proud. We say, this is my supervisor. Another one is the public relations officer, Uganda Heart Institute. She was a student here, Uganda Heart Institute. She was a student. She came, I mentored her. So, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to stop there. But we have a lot. We can keep in touch. I'm always available. Thank you. May God bless you.
Thank you so very much. So, I think the one cutting across feature in this is that whether it's journalism or communication, the skill set is probably the same. Not probably, it is the same, yeah? Whether it's camera or it's writing, you can't say I'm doing communications, therefore the camera is not my thing. Ladies and gentlemen, Patty Houston Home is a semi-retired, first time I'm hearing that, a semi-retired journalist from Ohio, the USA, currently working as a volunteer communications director for the Uganda Partners under the byline Patty Houston. She started her career at age 14, reporting on school news for a weekly newspaper and advancing to covering sports and writing obituaries throughout high school for a daily newspaper. She served as a reporter and press room proofreader for the student-operated newspaper while working on her journalism undergraduate degree at the Ohio State University, where she also obtained a master's degree in communications. She garnered numerous awards for stories generated at 7 different dailies before applying for skills to public relations, university teaching, and authoring. Her published books are Shattered, a true story of an American teenager, Kid in the House, and Inviting a Giraffe to Tea. Her latest, soon-to-be published book is a compilation of true stories with a working title, Dolls and Trees, Creative Nonfiction Storytelling, Put your hands together for Patty Houston.
Thank you, Ronnie. So in the interest of time, good afternoon, by the way, everyone. In the interest of time, I'm going to go 20 minutes instead of 30 and give me a 5-minute warning. And I do have a copy of the things I want to talk about. And if you want the full copy, I'll give a copy to Mr. Simakula, and he can email it to you, so you have that. My colleague Ann is only going to speak for 10 minutes, we talked, because we want you all to have time to ask questions, because that's what journalists do. So because you've been so kind and sitting so long, I'm going to start with asking a couple questions. And if you answer yes, I want you to stand up. So how many in here are looking at a career in journalism? Those people should stand up. Give yourself a big stretch. Stand up. Do we have anybody? Thank you. Be bold. Stand. Wonderful. Wonderful. Okay, you can be seated. And then my next question is, how many of you are looking at a career in communications or PR? Wonderful, wonderful. You've been so kind to sit so long, so I appreciate that. You may be seated. And then the last question I want to ask to someone in the last 2 rows, I'd like for someone to volunteer and tell us how many participants we have out here in this particular session. How many? Can someone in the last 2 rows volunteer and say how many people? And you can even estimate how many people are listening to this afternoon. Someone be bold. Be bold, be a professional, be a journalist. Somebody volunteer. You counting in your head? How many do you think, John or Ronnie? How many? 400. I don't think there are 400. But see, here's the thing. If you're going to be a journalist or even a communications professional, you got to be looking around. And you know, while I'm sitting up here, I've done both. Half of my career was in journalism and half in communications. I'm looking around. There was a cat walking across 2 or 3 times. And I watch you. And honestly, this is the very first time that I've spoken this much about myself, because I would rather be out there listening and taking notes of what's happening up here. And I want to thank John Simakula for giving me the opportunity, because previously I've only talked for maybe 3 minutes about myself and my career. And so when I found out that I was going to be doing that, just like my colleague mentioned earlier, staying up late at night, I was up like maybe 5 hours thinking, what would I share with you? What would I tell you? So I'm going to tell you a few stories, and I'm going to give you a few insights. And I'm also going to tell you some things I've never told anyone else. And if you're a journalist and you hear that phrase, you want to perk up and say, ooh, I want to know what that is. So 1978, before any of you were born, including maybe Ann up here, I was a reporter, and there was something called the blizzard of 1978 in my state of Ohio. And if any of you want to fact check that, all you have to do is type in blizzard of 78. So I was a reporter at a newspaper, living in a tiny little apartment, single woman, no TV, and I heard on the radio that there was this big snowstorm. So I couldn't get my car out because the snow was so high, it was up to my waist. I had to walk probably 40 minutes to get to the place where I worked, to the newsroom. Nobody was there yet except a very sleepy janitor who woke up and let me in. And I started to realize this was a big story. So there were probably 8 of us out of a newsroom of maybe 40 people who made it in. And for 5 days, we wrote stories. We never left. We slept on our desks. We slept in a corner. Somebody brought pizza in. We ate snacks out of a vending machine. We actually delivered the newspapers. And we couldn't take a bath. We were stinky and sweaty. That's journalism, my friends. That's journalism. Right? And so if you want that kind of career, you got to be willing. I mean, I've never been a woman who wears makeup, so it didn't bother me too much what I looked like. It doesn't bother me too much today. You know, I was never one of those girly girl kind of people. I always wanted to do the things that the guys were doing. I liked the crime stories. I wanted to cover the murders. So for me as a journalist, I had to change my name from Patty to Pat, because in those days, women couldn't cover those stories. So my whole career, my name was Pat and not Patty. That's journalism. So in 1993, there was a dangerous chemical spill at a school where I was a communications director. And as I was working and strategizing about what to do, I knew the press were coming. So we evacuated 500 students, and I pulled a school bus around. It was the middle of the winter, and I put all the reporters in the school bus. Why did I do that? Because I didn't want them to be in an unsafe environment. I also wanted to control the message, because that's what public relations does, okay? So I was born to be a writer. God gave me that gift. And all of you have different gifts. Now, when I was an undergraduate student like all of you, I had to take a broadcasting course. And my male instructor in the broadcasting course said, none of you girls will ever be broadcasters because your voices are too high. And so we were hugely discouraged, a lot of discrimination. I've subsequently had my own podcast. I proved him wrong. So I hope we've got a lot of ladies here. I hope you really are moving forward. I don't know all the discrimination things against women in the media and in public relations in Uganda, but I know that there are some, and we still have equity issues. So my first job, actually, as I was growing up, was frying hamburgers in a concession stand that my father managed at a racetrack. And that was when I was 12. At 13, I worked in an ice cream shop, starting to save money so that I could go to college and be the very first person in my family to get a college education. So at 14, I walked into a weekly newspaper and said, will you hire me? I didn't have any experience in journalism. And the editor said, well, what will you do? And I said, well, you don't have any news about high school students. I'll write that. And you don't have to pay me. So that was my very first job. And then by the time I was 18, I was working at a daily newspaper, covering sports, doing feature stories. I had a journalism class in high school, and I also had some incredible mentors, some wonderful older people that held my hand and told me how to do things. And if you have mentors today, work with them, respect their time, and value them, because it's really an incredible experience. So journalism, honestly, as half of my career, was more fun. It was more honest. We made less money. We had long, incredibly crazy hours. PR is more money, and the hours are more stable. For me, the price I paid in journalism is didn't get married till I was 40 years old and never had any biological children. Probably very shocking to a lot of you in your culture, but I was really into my career, and that was the price that I paid. I don't believe you have to pay that price, but I'm simply telling you that, that's my story. So yesterday in the state of Ohio, a gentleman named Larry Householder was giving a 20-year prison sentence for the largest bribery case ever in the history of my state. Now, the United States has 50 states. Friends, 50 states is almost like 50 different countries, because every one of those states is so different. And so when you look at the United States, I can't tell you what the culture is like, the way you can describe it here, because it's so diverse. But in my state, we had a lot of corruption going on, and it was a major victory. And do you know why that happened? Because there were eyes on the bribery, and there were eyes of the press. And we need more eyes of the media on these kinds of things. There's also a lot of news going on in the United States about, in the state of Texas, there's a major heat wave. People are dying from it. And also, in my state of Ohio and New York State and other states, there's smoke coming from forest fires in Canada. I have not seen stories that describe in depth what it's like for a person who can't breathe when they're outside in the smoke, and what it's like to have heat dehydration, what it's like for the people in Texas. We need more of those kinds of stories. And I want you to think about, as you're thinking about a writing career, for any of you that are, how can you tell a story? How can you show a story that people will feel it instead of just read it and say, oh yeah, well, that's not me. You know, so that's pretty important. I've done stories here at UCU, so you don't have to travel. I've done some really fun stories. One of my most fun stories that I gave to John Simakula was a huge rat in my toilet. So I was living here on campus, and I got up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, and there was a big, large rat in my toilet. So instead of saying, oh my God, there's a rat in my toilet, I thought, this is a good story. So I got my camera out, I took pictures, I called my husband, that became part of the story. So that was the rat story. And the book that I'm writing right now will include the rat story from here at UCU. Also, I wrote a story about cockroaches, because on this campus, I had a big, huge cockroach in my kitchen. And I took my shoe and I killed it. And when I killed it, I noticed it had to be female because it had all these eggs. So when you think of research, sometimes you think research is just for people that want to get a PhD, or maybe you know, they want to teach. I'm telling you folks, as writers, get on there and research, because I took that picture of that cockroach and I researched to figure out what kind of cockroach it was. There are a lot of different kinds of cockroaches. And I found out it was an American cockroach. And there's a lot of controversy here. Did the cockroaches come from the United States, or did the Africans take them over there on the slave ships? So anyway, just kind of a fun story. I've done some really serious stories. I've gone with nursing students into hospitals, and I've spent a couple hours with men that have trachs in their necks, and they've lost legs from boda accidents. And I've written about that. And that kind of stuff, you have to have good listening skills. You have to get in there. You have to be willing to say, the low-hanging fruit is journalism. If you just want to sit around and do stories on each other, I guess that's fine, but that's not the best way to grow. And if you really want to grow, you're going to get into these there are 11 faculties and schools on this campus. You need to get in there and see what they're doing and let them tell you their stories. People really want to talk and tell you their stories. So that's kind of fun. I also, one of the things I've been doing here is I've been helping postgraduate students write their dissertations, and I've helped maybe 150 of those students, and sometimes there's a story in those students. And one of those students is John Livingstone Mutiaba. Am I pronouncing that right? Mutiaba. Anyway, I've been working with him for a couple years, and I did an amazing story on his research on cage fishing. And not just that he's doing a paper on it, but you know, folks, going deep means finding out, you know, as I talked to him, I said, what are the real obstacles? He said, the obstacles are the guys They want to get drunk and they want to go out on their boats and they don't want to do cage fishing. And they get jealous because the women want to do it, and then they go and disrupt their produce with the cage fishing. So when we think about when we're in journalism school, the 5 W's and the H, that's just touching the surface. If you think that you can just come up with one answer to each of those, who, what, when, where, why, and how, that's not the best advice I would give, because you're going to make a name for yourself if you start researching. I've had students that I've mentored here on this campus, and they come back with a story, and I said, well, did you ask this, this, and this? Well, no, they didn't tell me that. I said, did you ask it? No, I didn't think. I thought I was done. I said, no, get on the internet, do a lot of research. I get a little frustrated when I think of lazy journalism, that people think you can just wrap something up in an hour. Sometimes it might take a day. And you do have deadlines, but you know, it's pretty important. How am I doing, Ronnie? How much time? 5 more minutes? Okay. So Ronnie, by the way, was one of my students in 2013. I've been around a while. So, you know, working in the press, let me talk about PR a little bit. So my job now, I'm communications director for a nonprofit called Uganda Partners. It's based in the state of Pennsylvania. And yeah, when they offered me the job, I was retiring. I worked for the state of Ohio in public relations. And I'm going to be honest with you, public relations is pretty cutthroat. I don't know if you're familiar with that term, but there's some backstabbing. Journalism doesn't happen so much because we're on deadlines and we don't really have time to stab each other in the back. But public relations can be pretty brutal. And I've had some good and bad experiences in public relations. I've had some defining moments where I worked for an agency and I was sending out press releases about schools that had a material called asbestos for insulation that was causing cancer. And I did a little of my own research and found out my own building, where I was working every day with 500 employees, was full of asbestos. And so I went into my boss, the state superintendent, and I said, I'm not doing any more press releases until you get this asbestos out of our building. Now, I could have got fired over that, but I didn't. And we did subsequently have a couple employees that died of cancer, possibly from the asbestos in our building. So there are moments in public relations where you have to protect the organization. There are other moments where you need to stand up. There was a teacher that was sent in space shortly after I got a PR job, my very first PR job. And Krista McCullough was her name in the United States. And I'd only been on the job 2 months, but I sort of understood that I couldn't overstep my bounds. And I was the public information officer. I was dealing with the press, and I knew them and they knew me. But I knew there were a lot of people in my agency that didn't like me because I used to be a reporter. But I was eating my lunch and watching TV. The space shuttle goes up. It's called the Challenger. It was in 1986. And it exploded, and this teacher died, and all the astronauts died. So I immediately went into a meeting where my boss was and whispered in his ear that Krista McCullough just died. And one of his assistants, who didn't like me, followed me out the door and was shouting at me and telling me, you know, you can't go in and just interrupt a meeting. But so what I did was I went back to my office and I started writing talking points and a press release for my boss. And he came out of the meeting and he said, oh, Pat, we gotta get a press release out. And I said, done. And that's what journalism taught me for PR. Taught me how to do a deadline, how to reach a deadline. We good? Should I wrap up? Yeah, okay. So I want to give you guys a chance to ask questions. I've got a lot more I could share with you. And next Friday, Frank Abonyo is having me talk about politics in the United States and how the media is dealing with that. And, I really thank you for giving me this opportunity. Just a lot of things that I could impart on you, but one of the things I just want to remind you that work hard. Don't afraid to be a risk taker. I mean, I got married when I was 4. My husband and I skied in the morning, got married in the afternoon. And I still like to go out and do kind of different things. And I love the writing. And I've done some editing, but I don't like it quite as well as the writing. And just find out what your niche is. And you just may have to do some stories that you don't want to do because they're kind of boring. But just get through it and then find some really good ones that you want to work on. And pitch them. Pitch them like crazy to your editors or your lecturers here and see what they say. So thank you all so very much, and love to meet you. I'm here till the end of July. Would love to chat with you some more.
Thank you so much, Buddy. Everything she said, I summed it into one thing: passion. When you're passionate about something, the way you speak about it is contagious, yeah? Our last speaker was my boss, by the way. And wow, had a good time working with her. Dr. Anne Mugunga is a consultant with Feed the Future, a USAID-funded activity. She is the principal and founder NETZA International School. She holds a PhD in communication at the Hong Kong Baptist University and is a fellow of the Hong Kong Postgraduate Fellowship scheme. She holds an MA International Communications at the University of Leeds, BA Mass Communication Macquarie University, and an advanced diploma in HR management, among others. She has worked as a lecturer at UCU under the Department of Mass Communication and has over 18 years in teaching communications and management fields, ranging from research journalism, editing, public relations, budget management, preparation and implementation of change and management strategies, among others. She was the chief editor and head of communications and corporate affairs at COMESA. That was between 2011 and 2016. Assistant senior principal editor of the Hansard Parliament of Uganda, that is 1999-2010. A lecturer, mass communication department, Macquarie University, 2000-2010. Reporter, The Daily Monitor, 1996-1999. And she was a board member of the NGO Dwelling Places, 2017-2022. Anne is also keen about social justice and evidence-based research and has published in a number of peer-reviewed journals. She's a wife, mother, mentor, teacher. When not in the boardroom, lecture room, or kindergarten class, she enjoys reading, editing, writing, amateur photography, and traveling. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Dr. Anne Mugunga.
Thanks, Ronnie. I'm privileged to be here. The joy of speaking last is that no one is listening. So I can safely poison you without fear of contradiction. To the panel, thank you to Dr. Chivita in absentia, Professor Chivita. Professor Chivita is my teacher and mentor, and I'm glad to be back. UCU has a soft spot in my heart. Ronnie didn't mention that I was a supervisor of the standard. And he in particular is responsible for the gray hair that I have, he and his team, for the time that I was there. Before we start, I'd like to ask two students, one male, one female, to please quickly come up and help me with something for half a minute. One male student, one female student, come to the microphone. All right, tell us who you are.
Yes, good evening, everyone. The name is Dismas Noaine, Journalism, Media and Communication, second year, second semester. And by God's grace, I'm also the parliamentary representative on behalf of the school in the 25th Guild government.
Okay, thank you. Is that all?
I'm a born-again Christian, and I love the Lord.
You love the Lord. Thank you, Dismas, right? Okay, young lady, who are you?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Precious Gift Aloyo. I am a journalist, a student at Uganda Christian University in my second year. I am passionate about photography. I am a poet. I write a lot. I do speaking to little children. I read aloud. I have a podcast that's still new. And I believe that's who I am.
You believe that's who you are. Thank you, Precious. Dismas, when everything that you've told us is taken away from you, who are you? Yes.
It would be difficult to take away my name. So I believe I still remain as Dismas, and I don't see it physically and spiritually possible to separate me from Christ. So those components really intertwined in my entire self.
Great answer. Thank you. It's not a trick question, by the way, and there are no right or wrong answers. Thank you, Dismas. Precious, when everything you've told us is taken away from you, who are you?
I am just a body.
You're
an
just
empty shell walking around.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, that's her answer, and it's valid. Let's clap for them. I have asked them this question for a number of reasons, and I ask all of us to reflect on that question, all of us students. Who are you? In 20 years' time, all of you journalists, amongst all of you journalism and communication students, let me start with 5 years' time. In 5 years' time, only 80% of you will be practicing as journalists and communications practitioners in 5 years' time. In 10 years' time, only 90% of you will be practicing as journalists and communications practitioners. In 20 years' time, only 5% of you will be practicing as journalists and communication practitioners. Am I right? And this is not just for your course. It's not just for journalism and communication. It's the same for all courses, especially for high school graduates. The ones who are not called mature entrants, the ones who come from high school and join university, this trend is the same. That is why I want you to seriously reflect about who you are. Because at one point, the things that you're thinking about right now, they will be taken away from you, either by circumstances or by things beyond your control, but it could also be by choice. And that choice and that decision is going to be made by you, okay? The course, I have a few minutes, so I'm just going to tell you 4 things. The first is that the course that you're studying is most probably going to give you a job. But who you are is going to determine the course of your life. Who you are is going to determine the course of your life. So think seriously about who you are. In less than 3 minutes, let me tell you about myself, and then you delete as applicable. I studied mass communication 1,000 years ago. I did not want to study mass communication. When I was in my high school, my father wanted me to study law because he said I had the grades to study law. And I said, I don't want to study law. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to study, but I did know what I did not want to study, and that was law. So I told him, how about education? Maybe I should study education. He said, no, you have enough points to study law. There is no way you're going to study education. So I sat with 2 of my siblings who are older than me and told them, I really don't want to study law. What do I do? Let's have this discussion amongst yourselves and Dad. So my elder sister told me at that point in time that there was a course called mass communication. I had never heard about it. I read about it and learned that you actually get to read and write when you're doing mass communication. I said, wow, I like to read and write. That's possibly something that I can do. And I got the points. I went into mass communication. At the time, it was the course that I think was taking the highest grades from A levels. So I did mass communication, and I loved it. I liked it. I've been practicing for over 20 years now. But stay with me. After I graduated, I practiced as a journalist for about 3-4 years. I started practicing as a journalist when I was still at the university at Makerere, because at the end of the first term in first year, our lecturer brought back the results. Yes, you heard right, it was first term. We used to have terms, not semesters. So we used to have terms. At the end of the term, the lecturer brought back the results and said, who is Anne? I used to sit at the back of the class minding my own business. And I was thinking to myself, I'm really in trouble right now. He says, I need to see you at the end of the class. So I went to see him. Long story short, he said, you cannot be the best student in my class and you're not writing for any newspaper. He sent me to an editor of the Monitor. He was called Mr. Tebere at the time. He gave me his number. I called him using those old phones that you used to do like this, the call boxes. I called him, Mr. Tebere, I've been told to call you to write. And he said, if you've been called to come to me to write, how come you don't have a story for me? I want you in my office tomorrow with at least 2 articles. So I worked overnight, submitted the articles. Long story short, I practiced journalism for about 3-4 years. I did my master's in about, in 2001, and back then, if you passed your master's, you'd be called back to lecture at the university. So I lectured at Makerere for about 10 years as I was working in my other job at Parliament, and I actually enjoyed working as a lecturer. I said to myself, wait a minute, maybe this is what education was all about. Remember my desire to do the course of education? Maybe this is what education was all about. But I just taught and went through the motions. I liked it. I mentored a few students. Life goes on. I've done a number of jobs. As my introduction has told you, I won't go back into that. But what's my point here? Even as I did those jobs, I continued to teach. I continued to mentor. I continued to be very deliberate about reaching out to at least 5 students. I would make sure that in any particular year that I'm teaching, at least 5 students' lives are different because I'm in that lecture room. And I was very deliberate about it. And that took me back to the point where I said, wait a minute, maybe God is telling me something about teaching. So when I ask myself the question, who are you? My answer as Anne is I'm a teacher. Okay? I don't know what your answer is. I don't know what your answer will be. And I don't want you to be a teacher if that's not who you are. But I want you to reflect on the journey that life is taking you. You can be a journalist who is passionate about something. You can be a doctor who's passionate about business. You can be a lawyer who is passionate about mentorship. So do not be caught in the box of the course that you have done and feel imprisoned in it. There are so many things that you can do with a versatile person that you are. I hope you understand what I'm saying. So explore who you are and be proactive and deliberate about engaging the goals that you have set for yourself and the person that you're created to be. Thankfully, at UCU, we can talk about God and who we're created to be. In some environments, you can't do that. Okay? I will close with this. You might have so many unanswered questions. You might be in first year, second year, third year. You have so many unanswered questions. Keep asking those questions. You cannot figure out life in one time or at one go. Some of us are old, but we're still figuring out life, okay? So don't be uncomfortable with the questions that you're asking yourself. Ask questions, keep finding solutions, keep inventing, and have fun while you're doing it, okay? Enjoy your lives in a safe and legal way, okay? Enjoy your lives safely and legally, have fun. I mean, you're young. There's no point why your life should be boring because you're stressed. When are you going to get the next job? Yes, it's an issue. It's important. Please get a job. Please invest. Please work hard. Please, some of you might become self-employed, okay? You can start a business. It's hard. That's a story for another day. It's hard, but it's possible, okay? So be versatile and keep asking these questions. I'll end with these 3 pointers. Work hard, okay? Whatever it is that you're doing, work hard. Whether you're a student, be the best student that you can be. Whether you're a reporter, be the best reporter that you can be. If you're a comms person, a journalist, be the best you that you can be. Work smart. You're lucky, like the former speakers have said, you have all these resources around you. Work smart, you have phones, you have resources, you have mentors, you have connections, you have networks. Work smart and work well with people. It's very important to work well with people. Some of us introverts, I'm an introvert by the way, you can't tell because I'm a teacher, but yes, I'm an introvert. Some of us introverts say, people are, avoid them, get a dog. But you can't avoid people. We're living in this world. Work well with people, build relationships. You've been told, get mentors, build networks. Make sure you're the person that they come to when they are looking for something. Make sure you're the person they are looking for when they want someone to write that communication strategy, to do this story, to do that documentary. So let me close. The 4 things that I've told you. 1, who are you? Think about it and answer the question for yourself. It's not a trick question. And whatever it is that you discover, follow the path that God has created you to be. Your course will probably give you a job, but who you are will determine the course of your life. Work hard, work smart, and work well with people. Thank you.
Okay, some of you who have mastered the art of ChatGPT don't know hard work. So it's been 3 hours of non-stop, insightful discourse from 4 speakers. It's now time to unleash those questions. I saw Constance with a microphone that is wireless. Yes, pass it around. Ladies and gentlemen, keep those questions coming. We have at least 10 minutes to engage on this one. Okay, we have one. Please stand up.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Pauline Luba, and my question is directed towards Anne. When Ronnie was reading your accomplishments, there were a great deal and very many. And I think now if someone asked who you are, you'd be very able to say who you are. And okay, my question is, leaving alone everything that you have accomplished and so forth, if you could go back to who you are when you were 21, because I assume the age bracket here is 20 to 25 or older, somewhere there, but what are some mistakes that you'd say that avoid these as much as you can?
Being totally honest, when I got my master's degree, I would have not got it in communications. I would have got it in social work because I'm very much a social justice kind of person. And I would have loved to have had a career where I could have used my writing and advanced some causes, you know. So there are a lot of mistakes I made, but that's one mistake.
Could I suggest we sort of get a few questions at a time, and then so that, since we're standing up, so that when we do, we answer like 2-3 questions, and then in the interest of time, I heard you have a movie showing, and you probably have other things to do after this.
Hello. My question goes to Mr. Waigolo. You say there's so much noise from multiple channels, internet, TV, radio, and all that, especially the internet, the citizen journalists and whatnot. Are you saying the traditional media or the mainstream media has lost its grip on information dissemination?
Yeah, thank you. My name is Bildan. My question goes to Mr. The spokesperson of National Council for Education. So basically, in context, when you're giving your submission, you talked about trying your best to defend your organization and put it out in the best way possible. In a case whereby your organization is doing something wrong, like your organization has faulted in something, as the PR expert, in such a case, because we are taught in the classroom that you're supposed to accept your fault and then try to give a remedy. But in your case, with the experience you've had in communication and in the office you've had, have you had instances that your organization has faulted and you come out and solve? And how did you solve this situation? And what would you advise a communication practitioner to do when he's having such a dilemma at his place of work? Thank you.
Anyone?
I'll answer the question raised by the young lady to my right, and then I'll sit down and leave for my colleagues to answer the others. I would say 2 things. One, be more confident. You are, should I say, stronger than you think you are. It can be very intimidating when you've just graduated and you've gone out into the world. You probably leave this place and you'll be the youngest lecturer, you'll be the youngest. At some point in my career, I was the youngest everything. I was the youngest reporter, I was the youngest board member, I was the youngest, and it will happen to you as well. You'll be the youngest lecturer, you get my point. But at the same time, the skills that you're bringing to the table, don't underestimate yourself. You're stronger than who you are. Be confident and speak up. Let your voice be heard in that boardroom. Let your voice be heard in that lecture room. Let your voice be heard when that strategic plan for the organization is being done. Even if you're the youngest person in the room, be strong and speak up. The second thing that I would say, so that speaks to my mistake. I wasn't as bold and I didn't speak up as often as I should. And then I think the other mistake that I did is that I didn't give people the chance to make mistakes at some point when I was mentoring them, teaching them. So that's a mistake that I made. And what I would say is be empathetic. People are always fighting battles that are even bigger than yours, or battles that you'll never know about. That boss of yours who's screaming at you, they're fighting battles that you'll never know about. So be empathetic, try to understand them. Don't make excuses. If you need help, ask for it. But be empathetic, be kind, and reach out to as many of your colleagues as possible in an empathetic way. I don't know if that makes sense. Thank you.
Okay.
So I talked about defining moments when it comes to ethics and integrity in both journalism and communications. And I mentioned the asbestos cancer-causing insulation incident. And I also talked about the chemical spill at the high school when I was the PR director. I did some research and discovered that this particular chemical, 10 years down the road, could cause neurological disorder in the students. And so I went to the superintendent of the school and I said, we need to notify parents and he refused to do it. And I just sat around, and 6 months later, I was on the list to be fired from my job. So I lost my job over that. So sometimes we as Christians and as professionals, we have to say, you know, is this the moment that I'm just saying enough? And I will tell you, any of you going into PR, one thing you need to know, if you are reporting on a fundraising campaign, I'm here to tell you that most organizations, when they launch a fundraising campaign, they already have 50% of the money raised. So you have to decide, are you going to go out and say we're trying to raise, in America, $1 million, because you know they've already raised half of that, or are you going to say that we want to raise now $500,000? So these are critical issues for us as ethical and professional journalists and communications people.
Okay, as Saul comes up, someone had a question for him, I think, to make it a third question.
Okay, thank you. My name is Martha, and my question is, as a new person to maybe be a spokesperson for a company or probably a PR, how do you get into the company because you have zero information about it and you're probably just a freshman from school? So how do you go about that? Thank you.
How do you get into what?
How do you find an entry into a company because you're fresh from school and you have no information about it? How are you employed from the first place to be a PR or a spokesperson? What do you need to do? Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Pastor Stephen. It goes direct to the PR. Now, sometimes it reaches a situation whereby you may be contradicting with your Christian values. For instance, what happened with National Council for Higher Education? There is a way how you've calculated it here before us, that somebody was trying to fight battles, then it ended up affecting other universities. But assuming that maybe that was an area of exit, as you've calculated it here, don't you see that sometimes you can reach a moment and you defend the undefendables? Don't you think that sometimes, because it's all about having to put something before you, having to get something to present to the family, etc., etc. If you reach such a moment, do you replace and you call your assistant, or you stand in the gap and you say, let it come and let it be counted upon me that I spoke it? And when you get back home, like as a Christian, you appear in a church, don't you feel the conviction within you? Thank you so much.
That's the last one.
Yeah, sorry. My question goes to Chief Editor here. I don't really remember the name, but it's about the Iacaro. It's about the time management. You talked about like sometimes you leave like by 1 a.m. and it reminded me about something when I was doing my internship, personal internship. Sometimes I used to work, but to continue the work, I have to go back again home and to continue to work upon the work. So I want us to find out, as a human being, how am I going to live my life easily without being suffering for such things like that? And also, you talked also about the opportunities. Sometimes you have to focus on one opportunity so that you can accomplish big achievement. Now we are looking at the opportunities around, and to tell me like, okay, yeah, just let me stuck on you focus TV and not look at other opportunities, how am I going to get money? And yeah, like that. Thank you.
Thank you. There is a question I'm still waiting for, but as they bring the paper, I want to thank all of you for being attentive. My sister asked about noise. When we talk about noise from various media channels or houses. So we were talking about, as a public relations officer, you are working for UCU, but you have so many channels that are sending and bringing information. During those days, we used to have post office and a telephone, which was only for the VC, and the fax, which was being mined by the secretary of the VC. Now we have those ones. On top of that, we have added other channels. But they are all bringing information, and you're also using them to send out information. So we looked at it as a barrier to today's what? Today's communication. That when you go to an office as a communications officer, maybe of UCU, as you are handling issues of phones, another one is coming with sending you, forwarding to you what has come on WhatsApp. Another one is telling you what is on YouTube. Another is giving you information, but you must provide the answers because YouTube has its own viewers or stakeholders or clients. There are those who are following UCU using Facebook. They're also waiting for any answer. There are those who are calling and they're waiting for an answer from you using telephone calls. So how do you handle all that? I think that's where we were looking at. That's why we say that you need to, prepare the same message. It may not be the same from those media houses, but when you come up with your clear message, it can circulate all over. The main challenge again is that sometimes you find an organization having one person, and you can't manage all that. But if you're like a 3 or 4, then you can determine that so is handling this, this one is handling this. But it came as a barrier to today's communication, that when you compare those days and today, it's a challenge. As we look at it as a new media, but you ask whether traditional media, the rate at which new media is taking traditional media, I don't think new media will go back. So traditional media has to sort out itself, to say that it also tries to move with the new media. I think that's 2. Defending the organization, I will combine it with the one of pastor because it's almost the same. When we talk about defending an organization, it's not about seeing that a hostel in UCU, God forbid, there was fire in a certain hostel. And they said, no, it was not a fire. But it was a fire, the people saw it. That's not what we are saying that you defend. But you must come out and defend the image of the organization. How? When we talk about crisis communication and crisis management, the first thing you must know is that there must be a problem because the crisis is something that threatens the organization. So if there's something that is threatening or threatening the organization, 1, you must know that there is a problem. The first thing is to accept that there is a problem. As National Council, we accepted that the use of the word expiry was wrong choice of word. But the meaning didn't change because the program must be reviewed. So we had to agree with the public that the use of the word expiry was wrong choice of word. We had to look for another word without changing the meaning, but which can be a bit, because now people were comparing expired programs with expired drugs or expired driving permits, and they thought that even the qualification is expired. So 1, understand the problem, that there is a problem in this organization. The boss is ever receiving money from clients. Then you design how to handle that crisis in crisis communication. Because when you understand the problem, then it will help you to come up with messages to the public. Because now the public is ready to hear from you. That's why whenever you hear, let's wait for police and hear. Let's wait and see what the government is going to say about this. People are waiting to hear what the VC is talking about. So when you prepare these messages, public relations is not all about trying to cover up a problem, but to create awareness that this was the problem, this is how it happened, this is how it has affected UCU, this is what we have lost, this is the way to go, this is what we are planning. You create awareness. So the message must be able to communicate to the public what next. If the hostel has been burnt, what plans do you have for the students who have lost their work, including mattresses and the rest? That's what the public will be interested in. So you create a message, you design a message. After designing a message, every organization has a spokesperson. And for public agencies, by the way, for your information, we have what we call Access to Information Act of 2005. I don't know whether you have come across it under media law. Access to Information Act of 2005 in a public service gives powers to the accounting officer as the chief spokesperson. So the rest of us do delegated work. That's why sometimes you may not see the PR of a certain organization, but you are ever seeing the CEO because it's the chief spokesperson. We do delegated work. Even in university like this one, I think the VC is the spokesperson of UCU. So whether you see other people, they do it on behalf of. So in crisis communication, after identifying the message, after coming up with your message, you must know who should speak about it, who should tell the public. Because if you leave it to whom it may concern, this one is saying A, this one is saying B, the other one is saying C, the public will be confused. So identify one person who is gazetted to speak, and is speaking the message on behalf of the organization. So whether I spoke, I went back and said what I looked at. Two, the other thing to note is that you are speaking the position of the organization. If the organization is saying that you Gandhi say, nobody died from the fire, that's the position of the organization. So some of you have some officers, you say, that one is ever lying to us. No, he's speaking the position of the organization. I want to mention names, but you know some people you say they are liars. He's speaking the position of the organization. And even if they appoint you tomorrow, it's what you will do. Let me tell you this as I conclude. When we work for public organizations, we are working for government. If National Council comes up with a statement about UCU, they will say, government has closed the UCU. Even when the minister is not aware, the Minister of Education, but said by me as the PRO, the reporter will say, government has or is to close. So whatever statement you make, first that your the first person to be affected is government. So whatever you say must be in line with the government's position. So that's where sometimes we find the challenges. So if you consider your consciousness, you consider your church, you choose either to go to church and become a pastor, or you remain where you are working. Are we together? If you want to go home and say, but what I said, and we don't regret, by the way. You say it is position of government. That's what I was told to say. That's what we are supposed to say, because we must portray ourselves. So the other thing, lastly, is to investigate. Because before you come up with a message, you must know the problem occurred. What caused the problem? Is it poor connection? Somebody came with a cigarette? If it's a Christian university or somebody cooking from there, are they allowed to go with the fire in the hostel? So you do the investigation. That's why we did the investigation up to reaching University of Bristol and this other university I'm forgetting. We even wrote to them and they confirmed. So, and lastly, in PR we have what we call a holding statement. A holding statement helps us. I say something, I say, we shall inform you, we are investigating. That gives you a chance to go and get the right answer. If the PR of UC, you say, let me get back to you. Then you run to the VC. Don't say, no, 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 no. We always use what we call a holding statement. We keep you holding them. We shall give you the information. The accident has occurred. 10 people have died. We are investigating the cause of the accident. Full stop. Thank you.
Maybe as Carol comes up. So, there's a thing that I think they need to understand. Sorry, it just came up. We are running out of time, but...
Sorry, how easy is it to find an entry point into employment as a spokesperson or PR, provided you have little or no knowledge about the company? When they advertised the job in Naro, I got a chance, I read about Naro. When I went there, I knew almost everything about Naro. When I went to National Council, I went on the website, I read about National Council. By the time we went for interviews, if you call me for interviews tomorrow in UCU, even if I don't know the chairperson of the council of UCU, before I come for interviews, I will be knowing the chairperson of the council. Whether you ask the question, that question, you don't ask it, I will be knowing it. So, when they advertise, or you are interested in an organization, pick interest and read something about it. Not going to the organization, you know what they do. But by the way, what do you do? But you have applied. You are asking the people who are interviewing you what they do in that organization. So this is just pick interest and know something about it.
Concerning the use of social media.
Yes.
How authoritative is my personal handle?
How to?
How authoritative is my personal handle in communicating organizational matters? What does what I say on my social media?
Each organization must have a social media policy, or in the communication policy, or in the communication strategy, because policies are by council. But at the implementation level, we have what we call a communication strategy. So this communication strategy clearly spells out how you are going to use the media, including social media, and who should use it. Because if you use your personal media to communicate organizational things, how will people differentiate that? That's why you see that people, I was talking with my friend, Mr. Chiva, he has Joseph Chiva at ucu.ac. But he also has Joseph Chiva at Gmail. So when he was communicating issues of UCU, he says at UCU. Then his other things uses Joseph Kiva. So the organization within the communication strategy, there must be a clear definition on how those things will be used. If the organization intends to use yours, there must be a guideline to guide on how they will use your personal thing, other than, because now everybody will use his and communicate everything. Because you are in the guild, you communicate. You are a guild representative, you communicate. You are a class rep, you communicate. There must be a strategy.
Thank you. Thank you. As Carol comes up to answer the one question, I think you had a question for her.
Carol, please. This question is directed towards you because you have been a writer and you have quite an experience in that field. You have noticed that the writing, our storytelling techniques have not changed, but the consumers have. You're dealing with Gen Zs and a bit of millennials, but mostly the Gen Zs. How differently can you package stories to suit this type of generation?
Okay, thank you for the questions. Since time is up, I'll go through them quickly. How do you manage time? Like I'd said before, create boundaries around your time. And there are moments that you're going to have, there's no question, it's going to be a lot of work in the newsroom. So you're going to have to put in your shift, like Patty said, maybe, hopefully you won't spend nights there, like 2 or 3 nights, but there are going to be times when there's a breaking news, when it happened at 7, you're going to have to spend that time. But that is not an everyday thing. And what I have learned is if you plan well, if you recognize how your system works, how the newsroom works, and you plan well, then you won't have to spend time. And I've seen reporters like that. They come to the newsroom on time. They make it, because in the newsroom, you can kind of walk, depending on the newsroom you have, you can kind of walk in at any time, depending on, let's say, when you're having the meetings and anything. But if you know that for me to be able to go out to the field, follow up people, and bring stories, I have to start my day at 7. If I start my day at 7 and I do all that work, go for the meetings, go to the field, and I'll be back by 4 or 5, I'll finish, and I should be out of there by 6. That is very possible. It's all about planning. And I realized that when I was managing editor of the daily, we used to leave so late, and I thought, why are we leaving late? And I realized that many of the times the stories were not necessarily breaking stories, good stories, investigative, enterprise, but not breaking. So I said, you know what, no, we're not going to handle an enterprise or investigative story on the day that the reporter gives us, because we won't have the time. We'll still be fixing nuts and bolts, and if it's your main story, you're calling sources who are not picking up, and you're trying to fix things, so that ends up, you end up staying until 11. So I said, those kinds of stories will not run on the day they are brought in. The reporter brings them in, we give it time. And so we had to plan and say, what stories are we going to be running in the meantime? So we had to plan and say, let's do enterprise stories, let's do investigative, and have those in the bank, like we call them. So that on this day, we are running this investigative piece. On this day, we're doing this enterprise story. And so it's only once, it's not that often. Maybe it's once in 2 weeks or that sort of thing where we are leaving very late. So I think that you can manage time if you, whether you're a reporter or a writer, editor, you just have to plan your time and figure out how to do it. And also to set boundaries. When I was managing editor of digital, I sort of was always on my phone worried that suppose something breaks and, so I would, first of all, I would stay late. Then I realized that doesn't make sense. The team is doing the work. I just have to supervise them. So I would leave early, but I would still be on the phone the whole time checking, until I just told them, I said, guys, when I leave here, I expect that you know what you're doing. When you need me, then you call me. And so then I blocked off that time. And even when I had, my weekends were blocked off, my days off. I was like, these are my days off. And when it's a crisis, call me. But if it's not a crisis, then let me have my weekend because you're going to have yours. So I think it's about planning. But of course, working with the system you're in. Different newsrooms do things differently. Some of them have shifts. Some of them have, a number of people to do different shifts. Others, you're the one who's doing 2 shifts at a go. It depends. But once you find out what the system is like, make it work for you. Don't work for it. Make it work for you, but still do a good job. That's that one. And then how do you balance opportunities? You can balance. One of my friends I was telling you about is Patricia, who does so many things. But what I would encourage is to find your niche, is to find the thing that you like to do, the thing that you're good at, and make it your stronghold. Because like they usually say, a jack of trades and a master of none. You can be doing so many things, but no one will go and say, I want Solomon because he does this kind of story. I want Carol because she's very good at health writing. Or I want her because she's very good with social media. You're all over the place, so you're not strong in something. My advice would be, get something that you like. And I liked very much Anne's example, who she is. She's a teacher. So you can see she spent a good amount of time in the lecture room, lecturing people and mentoring and guiding. So she does that. Does she do other things? Yes. You have a business? She has a business. She writes. She does communications consultants. She does many things, but she knows that she's a teacher. That is her niche. That is her strength. And she does that, and then she adds on to that. So that I would say, find your niche and then add the other things. And then you make sure you balance them well so that no one is complaining about you not giving them time. And finally, stories for Gen Zs. I think for me, what I always say is journalism is journalism. At the end of the day, a news story is a news story. Whether it's a car accident, whether it's a budget reading, whatever, it is a news story. How do we package it? So that depends. That depends on who your audience is. And for many people, I think the reason why many traditional media still does the way they do things is because they know who pays to buy the paper. They know who pays to buy the paper. They know who's watching. The advertisers also know. Advertisers know that I'm targeting this person because I want you to advertise my company selling cars or my organization that does this because I'm targeting the person who can afford to do that. So there are many things that a newspaper or any media house takes into consideration. There are those who will take into consideration the Gen Zs. They want them, they know why. But other media houses will say, we are targeting children, young children, and we know why, and this is how we'll package it for them. That's why the language is different. And others will say, we are a business, we're here to make money, so we want to do news for the guys who will walk out there and buy that newspaper, walk out there and, be able, the advertiser will say, I'm looking for that, 30-year-old who drives this kind of car, who works here, who will be able to pay money for this product that I'm selling. So those are decisions that media houses tend to make. So that's the answer I would give for that question. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Carol. Well, it's been a handful of an afternoon, and the curtains have come down on this one. And as we wrap it up, I'll be inviting the head of department, Mr. Semakula, to come give closing remarks, then identify our students to do the same, maybe vote of thanks on the students' behalf. But then, after that, we'll invite our guests to go through the stalls, look at some of the exhibits. And yes, Mr. Semakula, over to you.
Thank you so much, Ronald, for the role you've played this afternoon. To the members who have been on the panel, I can only say that I'm short of words to use in thanking you for the words of wisdom that you've shared with our students. This is not the end. We keep on getting new students every year. This time, in fact, it is every semester almost we admit new students, so we shall keep engaging. I think that's all for now. I'm going to ask a student here to come and say a vote of thanks to you at the same time. And after that, this particular event will close with you moving around briefly, because we know that it's late, to see what the students are doing. Within 5 minutes, you should be done. And after this particular event, there will be another event for the students, which will be led by Mr. Senoga and the students. They will be launching a movie. Mr. Senoga is 100% concerned about this particular event. So if you do not see one of us around, it's because we are running somewhere to finish one or two things, but Mr. Senoga and the other guests will be taking over this event. Thank you so much once again, friends, for honoring our invitation, and may God bless you for that. So, Ichuma, please come and say a vote of thanks to our guests.
Good evening to you all. I guess we are all very tired, but it must be from the words of encouragement we have gotten from our speakers of the day. Most of the panelists this afternoon have really had very, very heavy CVs that me who is doing a bachelor's, I'm feeling a little frightened, but very soon we shall also be there. So I would like to thank you, our panelists, on behalf of the entire students' body present. These are some of the students of journalism, and I'm one of the student leaders. My co-MP is around, Honorable Dismas. My name is Constance Ichuma Sere, Bachelor of Arts in Journalism, Media and Communication, Year 2, second semester, and also the Minister of Information and Public Relations in the Guild, also the PR of the government, of the Guild government. You have really taken us through a lot of information that it's really a very encouraging experience, especially for the year ones who had just joined us. I think they're not even 2 months since they joined us, and it's such a good energizer to take them through their studies as students of journalism, and the good thing is they'll keep on having these opportunities every year. And as the school, Mr. Semakula confirmed that we shall always have these annual symposiums for the school. Yeah, thank you so much. I would like to invite Aloyo Precious for a closing prayer.
But even as Aloyo comes a closing prayer, I just wanted to also extend my sincere gratitude to the panelists, and also encourage you to please pass by our exhibition tables. Please see what the students are doing, give some feedback, and definitely they will also get to the level that you are at. So please, after here, make it a point to pass by. Thank you.
Okay, let's pray. Dear Lord in heaven, I thank you for this lovely day. Thank you for the different personalities that have come to speak to us. I thank you for the knowledge that we've all acquired. Lord, I ask that you help us use it in our different capacities. As we break off from this session, Lord, I ask that you go before us. And as we go into the next session, I ask still that you go before us. Thank you so much for this day and what we've been able to share. In Jesus' name I have prayed. Amen.
I'm alright. I have Jesus, peace of mind. Can't you see? Okay, look at me now, I'm okay. Look at me now, I'm okay. I'm okay. Say, okay, look at me now, I'm okay. Look at me now, I'm okay. I'm grateful that I'm
Recording
still standing.
stopped.
After all the hustles and hassles of life, I'm still here. It's not easy, but I'll keep breaking through. If not for the Lord who's on my side, they for them bring me down. They want to see me cry, but they no fit to touch my life. Makachuku go fire there. See, I know and they know that they have tried and failed. They keep failing, and when they ask how I'm doing, I tell them I'm okay, I'm alright.